Well, it's that time of the season again. The virtual month of May has been running for the past couple of weeks. The drivers have qualified. 33 drivers have made the field, and we're about to get rolling here in just a few minutes for the 8th running of the Elite Indy 500 by Rich Marr Florist. My name is Rishav Koslop here in the booth. No Mark Gillespie tonight, but I'm joined here by Marshall Stanley. Tonight we're also going to have R.C. Anderson joining us later tonight as well, but an exciting race ahead. Of course, one of the most prestigious events we run here in the Elite Racing Leagues. Marshall, happy to have you up here. What are you expecting here from a long night, 200 laps of racing around this famed Brickyard Raceway?
Yeah, happy to be here. 200 laps around an Indy. It's a pretty straightforward thing, but expect the unexpected. And tonight you got a lot of good guys that could potentially win this, so hopefully we can see a hell of a show.
Absolutely. So as we are waiting for the field to get ready to grid here in just a few moments' time, of course, with it being the month of May, typically the race occurs just before Memorial Day. Of course, right now this was Veterans Day just yesterday in the week, and we do, of course, want to salute our veterans, as well as with the traditional music that comes before the Indy 500, starting with, of course, back home again in Indiana. We should be joined by Dustin Dewar up here in the booth. We were having some audio issues, but Dusty, do you have a copy?
I got you guys. You got me?
Yes, sir. So Dustin Dewar here. Take it away, sir.
Oh. And a gleaming candle in this sycamore morning, with fragrance filled I used to roam when I dream of and I long for my oh.
Thanks so much there, Dustin Dewar, there for back home again in Indiana. With that done there, a few technical issues there, unfortunately, with the audio. So unfortunate there from Dusty, but thank you once again there. We're about to roll the engine command here from our Grand Marshal for tonight's event, James Hinchcliffe. So take it away here, James.
This is James Hinchcliffe. Thanks for tuning in to the 8th running of the Elite Indianapolis 500. Drivers, start your engines.
All right, the command is given. And drivers begin to set up 3 by 3. They will grid up, and let's walk you guys all through the starting grid here for tonight's 500.
Here is your starting lineup as they have qualified for the 8th running of the Elite Racing League Rich Marr Florist Indianapolis 500-mile race. On the pole, with a 4-lap average speed of 228.322 miles per hour, it's Christopher Demerit. Demerit's Team I-5G teammate Brandon Trano starts second, with Laguna Seca winner Adriano Pinheiro completing the front row. Two-time Indianapolis 500 winner Henry Bennett starts fourth. In the middle of row 2, it's the man trailing Bennett in this season's points chase, Alexander Van de Sande. Caleb Benchy will start on the outside of row 2. Motorsport.com editor Nick DeGroot starts 7th, with real-world IndyCar pilot Stephen Wilson qualifying 8th and looking for redemption after the 7th running of the Elite Indy 500. Jared Rexing enters tonight's Indy 500, fresh off a win in the Elite JoinAPS.com Cup Series at Richmond Raceway. Presley Thesora completes the top 10 qualifiers, with former series champion Chad Frankenfield qualifying 11th. Peter Dempsey joins row 4. AJ Hobson rolls off 13th. Brendan Madonia, winner of last night's Elite Carb Night Classic at Lucas Oil Raceway, is in the middle of row 5, with Charles Teed to his outside. On row 6, two Brazilians start alongside one another in Eric Troiano and Victor Del Porta. One of the great comic bits of the lead up to tonight's Indy 500, Jan Thirdquist, with a T on the end, starts 18th. Three different nationalities are represented on row 7. On the inside, Thomas Geisler of Germany. In the middle, Alexander Rihon, another in the strong Brazilian contingency. And to the outside, it's Jari Brupacher of Switzerland. Chris Wilhite, winner of Thursday's Elite Freedom 100 here at the Brickyard, starts 22nd, with Alec Balvins 23rd, and Mark Murphy 24th. Tyler Fode starts 25th in the Days Gone By colors, qualifying day dramatics and all. Joe McAdory is in the middle of row 9, with Michael Hossack starting 27th. AJ Musselman starts 28th, the last of our drivers who made today's field on time. The remaining 5 spots are occupied by alternates who joined the grid following withdrawals by fellow racers. They include the first man out of last week's bump round, Johnny Thomas, as well as Logan Spath to complete row 10. The 3 alternates on the final row of today's grid include Nicholas Sudik in 31st, Joshua Personet's colorful Sweet Tarts car in 32nd, and Drew Akers channeling the energy of Gritty from the 33rd starting spot.
Thanks so much there to Zach Evans here of the Elite Racing Network for walking us through that starting grid. Great job there. Of course, always happy to have your starting grid calls there. But yeah, drivers just rolled off the grid here on this lap, just pacing right now behind our pace car. We'll start seeing them line up 3 by 3 as I believe we'll have it on this lap here. But Marshall, what are your expectations for tonight? What drivers do you have your eyes on, given the month of May that we've had so far?
I think the first half of the race you're going to expect a lot of fuel saving. I think a lot of people are just going to kind of wait it out until the second half of the race, and then about those last 50 probably get going. But guys to watch are definitely going to be guys in the front 9. Got Chris Demerit, Brandon Treno, who's won, lost count how many 500s he's won here on iRacing, Henry Bennett, who's defending his win, Nick DeGroot, Stefan Wilson, and a whole bunch of other guys even in the back of the field that have a big chance of winning this race. So it's going to be really interesting.
Absolutely, yeah. The race being so long, I mean, 200 laps here around this speedway, I mean, it gives you so many opportunities. We've seen drivers drive all the way up from the back, especially look at the guys who just maybe got bumped out, but of course got in because a couple of drivers pulled out last second here, like that final row, Nicholas Sudik, Joshua Personet, Drew Akers, all filling up this row, or this group of 33 cars. Didn't have the best of qualifyings, but of course you're working with a completely different race car in qualifying than you are in the race. So potentially if they were focusing on race trim, they could be in a good position as a whole. Of course, also Tyler Fode, another one of those drivers who's been certainly making a name for himself recently in the IndyCar series, right now qualified in 25th. Will certainly look towards the middle to back of the pack for a lot of really talented drivers here. But really, right now, we're looking towards the front. The lights are out on the iRacing pace car. The drivers are lined up 3 by 3. We should be getting ready to get underway with the 8th running of the Elite Indy 500 presented by Rich Marr Florist. Pace car is going to peel off here onto pit road. And it's all in the hands of Christopher Demerit. And they're underway. The green flag waves, and we're rolling for the 8th running of the Elite Indy 500. Demerit instantly to the point as the front row all single files out, and here we go. We're getting ready for race time as we already have a spinner. Stefan Wilson spins it, and the yellow flag's out in turn number 1, lap number 1.
Big carnage here.
Huge crash here. Stefan Wilson, the car that started this whole series of incidents. We'll take a look and see what happened here. So watch Jared Rexing. So Wilson spins in front of Rexing. There you see a couple of other cars involved. So Rexing involved in that. Mark Murphy, Thomas Geisler, Chad Thornquist, all involved in that. AJ Hobson as well. Mentioned Thomas Geisler there. Presley Sora had to run off the track to avoid this incident. But it all starts with the 25 car of Stefan Wilson, one of the pro drivers that we have in the field there. I just missed the incident a little bit there. We'll take a look and see just how it all played out in turn number 1.
It looks like he just got a little loose on entry and almost saved it, and just couldn't get the car under him. It's a shame to have it happen on lap 1 and turn 1.
Yeah, a lot of cars involved in that. You saw 3 cars initially hit there. A few more cars having to check up as well. Not sure the full number of cars involved there. There were certainly quite a few. Looking back here, it looks like Wilson, Rexing, Hobson, Thornquist, Geisler, Alexander Regan, Yari Brupiker as well involved in that. Joshua Personette looks like he sustained some damage. Drew Akers appears to have avoided that relatively unscathed. But man, drama already on the very first lap of the race. And here the drivers come just past pit road here. Not even a lap completed, not even a quarter of a lap completed before that first caution flag came out. Don't suspect anybody is going to really be coming down pit road unless they have damage to repair.
And expect the unexpected at the Indy 500, you know?
Yeah, you really expect the unexpected. I mean, you've raced these cars at this level here, Marshall, a couple of times. Just talk us through, how tricky these really are to handle around this racetrack. This IR18, especially with the aeroscreen, the handling of it seems to have changed quite a bit, and it does seem fairly unforgiving for these drivers.
Yeah, there's definitely a very small window to find the right sweet spot, if you want to call it that. Tires cold on the beginning, first couple laps here can be very tricky if you don't know where your weight jacker and your roll bars are set, because that is a huge deal around here. So, hey, sometimes you don't know it's coming until it's too late, and I think for Stefan's case, that was probably what happened.
Yeah, so instantly issues there for Stefan Wilson. Drivers who have gone down pit road include everybody from Alec Balvan's on back, so that's 20th position on back. Balvan's, Fody, Murphy, Johnny Thomas, Joe McAddery, I think all made their stop there for just fresh tires and fuel. Meanwhile, the drivers involved in the incident, like we mentioned, Wilson, Rexing, Sora, Hobson, Thornquist, Geisler, Regan, and Brupiker, all of them are still sitting on pit road fixing damage to their cars. Lights still out, or lights are still on the pace car here as Christopher Demerit leads the first couple of laps here in this Richmar Florist Racing Indy 500. With that, we'll step away just for a brief moment with nonstop action and be back with you guys before we get back to the green. All right, getting ready to go back to green flag racing. The lights are out on the pace car. Christopher Demerit leading Brandon Treno and Adriano Pinheiro. Henry Bennett, another driver to look out for. Your defending Indy 500 champion, your defending IndyCar champion as well. Field's getting ready to get set up for hopefully an entire lap at the very least of green flag running this time by. Pace car is going to peel off. And actually, per Elite Indy 500 rules, or per Elite Racing IndyCar rules, We are going to pace for one more lap here. Forgot about that just briefly. So drivers not going back to green just yet. Typically, we allow the pace car driver to peel off, allow the drivers then, the leader, to pace the field, and then we'll head back. But in that break there, Marshall, you were talking to me about potentially what was going on there with Stefan and what with the rest of these drivers, and they do have some adjustment that they can make in the cars. They have anti-roll bar adjustment, but primarily they make changes to the weight jacker. And how does that change throughout a run, and how does that affect the drivers when they've got cold tires like right now, where they've been pacing effectively now for about 7 laps here?
It can make the first couple laps a little scary if you're not very comfortable with what settings you have. And with the setups and with how the air pushes here in traffic, you pretty much are going to have almost 2 separate settings, if not multiple settings throughout a run that you're going to be adjusting, whether you're in traffic, whether you're in clean air, whether you're saving fuel, whether so many different things fall into play. And I think that's just another element of what makes this race so challenging.
Absolutely. It's all about surviving, making it to those final 50 laps when the pace typically picks up, the intensity picks up, but first things first, you have to survive and make it that far. We'll see how far we can get on this particular run. Christopher Demerit ready to lead the field back to the green. Rounding turn number 4, you can see guys taking high lines, trying to get the best run onto the front straightaway, trying to get the best draft possible. Demerit leaving it pretty late here to go green. And finally, he hits the loud pedal, and we're back underway. The green flag waves at Indianapolis once again, and we are back to racing here. In the Indy 500, Demerit leads the field into turn number 1. Treno, Pinheiro, Bennett, and Van de Sant making up your top 5, and they're all single-filed throughout that order. Everybody single-filed right now, just trying to settle into some kind of rhythm, as here they come down the back straightaway one by one. You can see them all kind of peeling down here. Nobody really trying to make any specific moves. Probably a smart call there. Though if you look a little bit further back, Johnny Thomas and Mark Murphy running side by side into turn number 3. It's Thomas who makes the move on Murphy for the 21st position.
Looks like Treno and Demerit split positions right now. Looks like they're going to kind of do a little leapfrog thing to see if they can get away from P3.
Yeah, so there you go. Some quick drafting back and forth down the front straightaway. If they can separate themselves from Adriana Pinheiro, that's huge for them. Both of them working together here tonight to try and secure either one of them an Indy 500 victory. And here you go. The swap comes once again. Another lead change here at the Indy 500 into turn number 3. And, yeah, you can definitely tell they're starting to try and work together, but so far haven't quite been able to peel away from Adriana Pinheiro, but have been able to peel away from Henry Bennett in the number 1 car. Now, of course, long way to go in this race. Do not count out Henry Bennett, because we all remember last season when he was running in about the 4th position and all the cars running in front of him crashed out within the final 10 laps. It certainly could be one of those races that comes into Henry Bennett's hands. But right now, as it stands, it looks like Demerit and Treno leading the way, both of them looking very comfortable swapping positions on lap number 8 of 200.
Yeah, and this is something they're both very comfortable with. Both run with Apex Racing and I5G, which are both very, very talented teams here in Indianapolis. So I think they already have a plan set forward that they're going to work with and see what happens. And you got, like I say, you got guys like Henry who can make stuff happen here as well. And they're all used to competing against each other, so it should make for very close racing.
It absolutely should. And here we go. Another pass for the lead. Demerit back past Treno. They continue to swap at least twice a lap is what we're seeing here. But it's not quite doing enough to separate themselves from Adriana Pinheiro. And how about Pinheiro? He's been exceptional this season, has shown great pace since his rookie season or earlier this year in 2021. Looking to grab a championship, looking to grab an Indy 500 championship as well, and right now doing what he needs to do, hanging on with these leaders, the 2 drivers that most people in this field kind of look at and say, hey, those 2 might be the favorites here tonight. Pinheiro, though, certainly keeping his name in the hat.
Yeah, he's doing a pretty good job right now, finding the clean air in the corners, and as you see, both Treno and Demerit are both using lane 2 as a way to get some air on the nose just to get the car to turn, and all 3 of them are doing a very good job of it right now.
Yeah, no, that's something we actually witnessed this time last season during the Indy 500 is drivers preferred almost a more squared-off approach to taking these corners where you'd actually kind of run it a little bit high and kind of stay high throughout the corner. It seemed to be providing better pace, better grip, especially as the race went on. Can you kind of describe that phenomenon? What's going on there, Marshall? Was that just the nature of the tire model with that particular car? Has that changed significantly here with the way things have been updated through iRacing, or do we expect to potentially see drivers going to that maybe wider line as the race goes on, as you kind of see Treno there doing that for aero purposes, but some people were doing it there for tire purposes as well?
I think the main thing will be mostly just to get clean air on the nose, because finding clean air is king in this car. I don't know whether or not we'll see passing on the outside unless somebody wants to hold down the low line, but it's all about just finding the clean air so you don't use as much tire up, because in dirty air the tires are going to get tore up all the time.
Absolutely. Well, here's the weather tonight. It is 119 degrees Fahrenheit track temperature. We're going to keep an eye on that because that heavily affects the way these cars handle around this racetrack. So right now, maybe a little bit toasty on the racetrack. Maybe it's running a little bit slick as the day goes on in iRacing. Expect to see that temperature potentially go down. Maybe it'll go up just a little bit prior to that as well, as we're only running around 1 p.m. In game time. Expect that track temperature, to raise a couple of degrees here before kind of heading back down, and there you see it already up to 119 Fahrenheit. Possibly as we get closer towards the end, though, the track may grip up. We may see the temps go down, and that's when things get very interesting with guys making some big moves on the outside or just in general heading into these corners. But still, the battle remains between the top three. Primarily, it's Demerit and Treno swapping positions, but they have not been able to shake off Adriana Pinheiro. And in fact, Henry Bennett has been closing in a little bit on these guys the last couple of laps. That last time around, Bennett ran a 1/10 of a second faster around this racetrack, which can be pretty significant around an oval like this. So Henry Bennett trying to put himself back in contention, bringing Alexander Van Nessant along with him in the 5th position.
Yeah, it looks like about the front three are off about a 1/10 behind all the way back to Chad. So looks like their tire fall off is affecting them a little bit, or maybe just the dirty air is affecting them.
Yeah, so we'll see exactly how that all plays out here. Once again, another pass here for the lead. Great little swap here between Treno and Demerit, even if this is all planned between the two teammates. It's still giving us some very interesting action here at the front of the pack. Meanwhile, the rest of the way in the field, not too many significant moves going on. Deeper in the field. Right now, guys, I think settled into a single groove. Just trying to get to grips with the car, to get grips with the track. Got to be a little bit, you got to tiptoe just a little bit here early on in this event. Make sure you're comfortable with what you have underneath you.
Yeah, and I think the main thing now is, like you said, get into a rhythm. At this point, probably save some fuel, see how much fuel you can save without losing a lot of time. And yeah, just try to survive. These first 100 laps are just all about surviving.
Absolutely. We're completing we're completing lap number 15. On to lap 16 here. And Christopher Demerit takes over the lead once again, sharing that every couple of laps with Brandon Treno. Adriana Pinheiro potentially, is he just hanging out right now, following these guys, staying in touch with the two leaders? Or is he potentially looking to make a move here in a couple of laps' time? Remember, Pinheiro in here for the full season championship, so he's looking at those double points that are awarded here for the Indy 500. Meanwhile, Treno and Demerit are Indy 500 only cars. They're just here to win the main event.
And I think one thing now is the back group is starting to really get a good draft off on these top three, so looks like all these guys will be really close together if it stays green going to green flag pit stop. So it'll be interesting to see who has a lot of fuel and who doesn't.
Watching here, Chad Frankenfield and Brandon Madonia. Madonia was looking a little bit high there, trying to see if he could find some grip. Didn't quite find it. Meanwhile, just ahead of them, Nick DeGroot looking to the inside of Caleb Benchy. DeGroot on the inside in turn number 3 isn't quite there. Benchy stays in front for the time being. DeGroot, though, looking strong early on here at the 500, but no real movement outside of the top 2. Inside the top 7, the biggest mover inside the top 10, Brendan Madonia up 5 positions from his starting spot, currently running in the 9th position. And some other movement as well a little bit further back. All of those, of course, a lot of these guys, of course, beneficiaries of the first lap incident. But yeah, within the top 14, no significant movers. Chris Wilhite, biggest mover of the top 14, up 8 positions. DeGroot continues to hound Caleb Benty. He's taking that higher line, trying to potentially get a run here, maybe off the corner. Has a good draft down the front straightaway. Will DeGroot peek out as they cross the yard of bricks? No, he will not. He's going to stay in line for now. Good way to save some fuel there, kind of lift off down the straightaways, and kind of, again, just save a little bit of fuel in that car. Utilize that draft for yourself. But if DeGroot feels he's faster, he might want to try and make a move here relatively soon so that he doesn't lose the pack in front.
Yeah, he seems to be doing a good job of finding the clean air, and it's hard to tell if he's wanting to get by or just wanting to save some fuel. But it looks like all the cars are spaced out very well right now. Everyone's just kind of finding their way, making sure they can make it to the first pit stop.
Absolutely, that's the main goal, and we'd expect to see first pit stops here with that caution probably taking place around that 35 to 40 would be my estimate there. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe that's probably what it looks like in this IR18 package, at least from my experience of watching the 500. Meanwhile, as we're watching Bency and Van de Sant go side by side. Actually, that's passing a lapped car there. But expect to see guys coming down pit road probably in the next 15 or so laps. That's probably what we'd expect that window to look like. Guys who save a little bit more fuel may be able to make it 20 more laps in this run. That's part of the mystery right now. Early on in this event, meanwhile, the top 2 have been able to pull away from the number 12 of Adriana Pinheiro. They continue to swap here. Treno goes back to the lead on Demerit, as Pinheiro sitting back about half a second behind these two. Henry Bennett a further half second behind Adriana Pinheiro. Everybody else kind of separating themselves further back, while the top 2 drivers stretch their gap up front.
Yeah, and this is where I5G and Apex Racing is their X factor. They know the car very well towards the end of the run. Everyone's been falling off on their tires right now, mostly in the 41s at the moment. But they have a lot of experience here. They're very comfortable with how the car runs here, so I wouldn't be surprised if they gain a little bit more ground as far as this run.
Yeah, we'll see how that plays out. Right now, it feels completely spread out. Really no close battles on track at all. Closest one we might have here is Logan Spath following Tyler Fody, and these guys kind of in a bit of a world of their own, completely separated from the main pack here. Nicholas Sudik, the last car in that lead pack, Tyler Fody, and Logan Spath right now. You can see just how far away the rest of the cars were, so they didn't quite have a great restart, or something went wrong there where they've just fallen back from the rest of these drivers. Close battle going on here for kind of the lead of the second group, but of course they're certainly relying maybe on a caution here to help them out, because Tyler Fody running towards the back right now and also not saving fuel because he's got no draft to rely on in front of him.
Yeah, and being in that clean air can really affect you a lot, because maybe your draft partner behind you is going to have 3 extra laps and he may wait a little longer, so it can be very tough being in the back of the field, especially if this race stays green.
Absolutely, yeah. If you're Tyler Fody, you just want to make sure you're staying on the lead lap. If you're any of these guys a little bit further back, you just want to make sure you stay on the lead lap before the next caution comes out, because unlike NASCAR, there is no lucky dog. There's none of that. You do have to earn your way back onto the lead lap the hard way, and that's either by getting that wave around by staying out or unlapping yourself on these leaders, which can certainly be extremely difficult. Back to the point of the field. Demerit back to the inside of Trano. They've been giving us a little bit of a show here because there really hasn't been a ton of action going on a little bit further back in the pack. Guys right now, again, just really content to sit around. We suspect there may also be just some general difficulty to follow right now. We'll take a look once again at what the track temps look like. Again, it's raised another 2 degrees Fahrenheit up to 121. So as the track temperature increases, it continues to get slicker. Guys have a tougher time following as well. So right now the hope for most of these guys is just settle into a rhythm, kind of find that, and hopefully as the track temperature goes down, you can start making moves to move forward. But as it stands right now, you really can't have much forward momentum. There's not too much that can really go on for these drivers to move them forward up on the racetrack.
I think a lot of them are just content with riding around at the moment. Like I said, trying to figure out if they can maybe figure some things out at the end of the run for the next few stints, and hopefully not lose any time as they go into pit road.
Absolutely, that's another crucial thing. Really tough to get down to the 60 miles an hour that you need to run here on pit road. Exiting turn number 4, you have to slam hard onto the brakes, try not to lock it up, and also avoid that impact attenuator. Get yourself slowed down in time to be good to go here. But how about this? Let's ride on board for a lap here with Brendan Trano. So this is the nose cam right down up against the ground here at 230 miles per hour. As Brendan Trano about to use the draft and get by teammate there. 230 miles an hour, 226 miles an hour, excuse me, is the peak velocity there for Trano. Pretty exceptional speed there, considering these are the detuned engines a little bit away from the standard qualifying pace. 217, 216 maybe a little bit there off the corner, and then back up into the 220s. The pace that these guys are driving around this racetrack in is absolutely exceptional. Look to the inside here. You're going to see Demerit making the move to the lead, and once again they swap here on the front straightaway.
It really shows you from that nose perspective where they're trying to find the clean air, how they're trying to move together. And they're just trying to find the most efficient way possible to be able to still be fast.
Absolutely, but look, now Pinheiro is starting to catch up a little bit to these guys. Last time around, the pace was fairly similar amongst the three of them, but Pinheiro's been doing a good job just kind of slowly pulling back in. We'll see what it is when they cross the line here. If Pinheiro's been able to get a solid draft to join up with them, and it is pretty reasonable there, about a tenth faster than Christopher Demerit, who is your leader, about half a tenth faster than Brandon Trano, who's in second position. So look out, Adriano Pinheiro might be having kind of a second wind here, trying to get back to this lead pack, trying to get back to this lead group of cars, trying to fight for the lead. Meanwhile, Henry Bennett on the previous lap looked pretty quick, but has since kind of fallen off a little bit from the 12 car. Bennett, I think, perfectly happy right now to run his own race. He knows, he understands the big picture here. He's won this race multiple times before. He knows what he needs to get done to make sure that that number 1 car is still in the conversation on lap 180, on lap 190, on lap 199, and lap 200. So keep an eye out, of course, for Henry Bennett. He's going to keep that nose clean all night, do what he needs to do to stay in touch with the leaders, and look out for him when it comes down to it.
And Pinheiro's doing a great job right now, just being able to keep up with these front two. Like I said, I think he may have something for him, but maybe he's just probably content with sticking behind and watching.
Certainly seems that way right now, but look at just how close that 12 car is. Again, seems potentially comfortable there, and he stays with Brandon Trano on that kind of higher line before they duck back down to the bottom. So Pinheiro just kind of maybe trying to find that clean air, trying to make sure he stays in touch here. If anything, with these two kind of working out their plan for the race, potentially they're giving Pinheiro a great chance to learn behind them, because he's now understanding what his car feels like when he has 2 cars in front of him. He has 2 cars battling in front of him, what advantage he can take, how he can potentially make moves. This could really be most advantageous right now for this number 12 car, as he's learning the most supposedly right now, as the other two really just playing with each other as they swap again back and forth along the front straightaway. swapping twice a lap. It all is part of the game plan for these leaders. They know they've done it before, but right now Pinheiro learning a lot about how this car handles with these two fighting cars in front of him.
Yeah, and I think with a lot of fast guys being up here, it could be rather interesting because I imagine if guys got spotters, they're probably being told what the front guys are doing at the moment and probably just trying to take in some mental notes towards the end of the race of what could be possible because when you get, we got somebody pitting.
We got both of our leaders coming down pit road. They come down together to make sure that they can continue to draft, but there you go, lap 33 of 200, even with, 4 or 5 laps there of caution. That seems very early there, so maybe pushing a little bit too hard. Pinheiro stays out for another lap. We'll see how long he can stay rolling on the racetrack if he has to come down just 1 lap later. Same thing with Bennett Van de Sant.
And the undercut plays a huge factor with the tires, so maybe that's what they're going for. I think Pinheiro and Henry and them may have to answer as far as tires because you can go really fast at the beginning of the run.
Well, we'll keep an eye out here. What is the move by Pinheiro? No, he stays out. He's planning to empty that tank out. I think it might be the call there for Adriano Pinheiro. Though instead, Caleb Bensi, Brendan Madonia, Peter Dempsey, Charles Teed, Chris Wilhite, Nicholas Sudik all making the call to come down pit road here. And they'll roll there. Meanwhile, Pinheiro, Bennett, Van de Sant, De Groot, Troiano, and Del Porto all staying out here trying to run those tanks dry or at least run a little bit later into this race. And personally, I like this call. Set yourself up to have the most flexibility later on in the race. Yes, you might be giving up some pace right now, but especially with the likelihood of a caution coming out before the checkered flag here, this could be the right call. Pinheiro slows down just in time. Henry Bennett, big lockup heading onto pit road. Does slow it down in time. It appears to be so, though. Nick de Groot as well. Victor Del Porto. Meanwhile, Van de Sant, Troiano both staying out on the racetrack one more time around. My guess would be fuel will be emptied this time by, and they'll have to come down pit road. And there's that duck to the bottom for Van de Sant. That might be just to grab a little bit of a draft, but expect to see the number 97 coming down pit road this time by as well.
Now it'll be interesting to see where the top 2 come out as far as Pinheiro and Bennett. So we'll see at this point if maybe the pit strategy of the undercut works out for them.
So there is Treno and Demerit. There is Pinheiro. It looks like they're going to just beat this 12 car off. They should have sufficient room to kind of extend their gap a little bit. But for Adriano Pinheiro, who stayed out 2 laps longer, that is not a bad position to be in at all. He should be able to quickly draft back up to these 2 cars. And really, he hasn't lost anything, I think, if you ask me. He's saved 2 extra laps of fuel. He has that on board, and to kind of give him some more flexibility in terms of strategy, and he's still involved in this battle for the lead.
Yeah, it was a great pit in, pit out stint from what it looks like. He got right back to where he needed to be. He's still in the catbird seat with the top 2, so yeah, it was a great stint there.
All right, well, Van de Sant, meanwhile, does come off of pit road, does fall behind Henry Bennett. Caleb Bensi actually beats Alexander Van de Sant off of pit road as well, and Van de Sant might even fall back behind Nick de Groot here. De Groot looking to the inside in turn number 3, and he should be able to get there. He does. So Van de Sant potentially the biggest loser of staying out really long there, so it worked for Pinheiro. Didn't quite work out here for Van de Sant, who's dropped 3 positions on the racetrack. He was running right behind Henry Bennett earlier. He's got some work to do, though. He's looking to the inside of Nick de Groot, though decides better of it this time by. Though he certainly probably has the pace here over the 89 car. Just needs to kind of find that track position, find that run to kind of make the move into 3 or 1.
Yeah, and when you end up in positions like this, you just got to make sure to keep a calm head because it can be very frustrating coming out of pit road and realizing that you're not in the same spot that you were supposed to be. So as long as you can keep a level head, just got to remember it's a long race. We're only at lap 37, so.
Absolutely a very long way to go, but for Adriano Pinheiro, the last time around, he set his personal best lap of the race. This time by, though, Demerit responds with his personal best time of the race. All 3 of the top 3 drivers all putting in lap times very similar to one another. But Pinheiro is back in the conversation here. Not as much swapping here between Demerit and Treno this time around after the pit stop. and that's allowed Adriano Pinheiro to very quickly catch back up to this lead group of cars, and he's once again part of that conversation. 4 seconds back, though, Henry Bennett. So, again, the big winner of this was Adriano Pinheiro. Big losers, kind of everybody else who pitted long. Like you were saying, that long strategy only seemed to work for one driver, and that was the driver who was challenging for the lead of this race. Bennett gives up a spot here to Caleb Bensi. Bennett seems to be struggling a little bit on these fresh tires on that number 1 car.
And I think at this point he's just hoping to save some fuel and, like I said, kind of get into a rhythm. He's been in this position many a times. Has a lot of experience here, so I imagine he's not very stressed out at the moment.
Absolutely not. So Henry Bennett just settling into a rhythm there. Might even wanted to allow Caleb Bensi here so that he can save fuel. He has a car now to follow, with Pinheiro being 4.5 seconds up the road. Great battle, though, here to follow as Bennett does look to the inside of Bensi and makes the move there. So these two might start swapping between one another. We'll see how they lead this second pack on the racetrack. Demerit sets another personal best fast lap of the race, up in the lead. 40.81 that time by, compared to the 40.87 and 40.97 of Treno and Pinheiro. Meanwhile, the driver's kind of behind here, completely in a different atmosphere in terms of times. Caleb Bensi running a 41.4, Henry Bennett running a 41.5. We're talking over half a second difference between the lead group and this kind of second group here, as they're once again squabbling amongst themselves. Henry Bennett back up into the 4th spot, but once again a 41.4 that last time by compared to Pinheiro's 40.8. There is a massive pace difference between the lead group and this second one.
Yeah, and even the lead group's having to dodge some lap traffic in the process of doing that, so I don't know if it's maybe due to the pace is turned up on the top 3, or maybe the back half is fuel saving at the moment and thinking they can maybe get enough on fuel. So it's very tough to tell, but as far as lap times go, the top 3 are flying at the moment.
Absolutely. We've passed 100 miles in this event. We've passed the 1/5 point in this event. It's going by pretty quickly here. Right now, it's still Brandon Treno leading the way over Christopher Demera, Adriano Pinheiro, Caleb Bensi, and Henry Bennett, your top 5 in the field. And of course, want to thank our race sponsor here, the 8th running of the Elite Indy 500, presented by Rich Marr Florist. Family owned and operated since 1955. They're a full-service florist serving the Lehigh Valley and beyond. They've been a proud sponsor of the Elite Racing Leagues as well as NASCAR drivers and teams. Check out Rich Marr Florist. Great to have them back on board for the Indy 500 this season. They always have been a great sponsor here for the Elite Racing Leagues. So once again, thanks to those guys, again, for being the presenting sponsor of this particular race. The 8th time we've run the Indy 500 here in the Elite Racing Leagues here on iRacing. It's pretty crazy how time has flown. I still can remember the very first time we moved over to iRacing, held a race there, and just how chaotic things were, how much things have changed, how much the level of competition has increased. We had over 50 drivers attempting to make the field, including a number of professionals. 33 ended up making it, and I think only 2 of them even rank amongst professional driver ranks. So really impressive job by the sim racers who've been involved in the qualifying process, who've been involved in the season as a whole. They're certainly putting on a show for us tonight, especially in this lead pack. Here we go, Demera and Treno starting to swap positions once again here on lap number 44.
This looks good. Indycar is at Indianapolis.
What
a great combination.
Yeah, it's one of the most fitting car track combinations out there. It really is. Just absolutely perfection. Really great to see these guys pushing the limits of these cars, and I mean it's ridiculous when you think about it. Just the scale of Indianapolis, the scale of the speed that these cars travel at, you just can't comprehend it. We're talking about this. These guys going 220, 230 miles an hour. It doesn't look like it. I mean, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway is a massive racetrack, having visited there a couple of times before in person myself, and it really, you don't truly understand just how large this facility is, how fast these guys are going to lap 2.5 miles in 40 seconds. It's ridiculous pace that they're running at, and they do that for the whole of the 200 laps here.
Yeah, and it's something you can't really fathom on television. You have to go see it in person. It's a venue unlike any other. It's like going to the old Yankee Stadium. It's like going to a place like Fenway. It has so much history behind it. The amount of people that have walked through that tunnel, walked through Gasoline Alley, just you could feel the energy around that place. And seeing cars doing 200 plus just is something unlike anything else. There's nothing in the world like it.
There really is not, and there's nothing in the sim racing world quite like it either. Brandon Treno back to the point, passing Christopher Demerit. Pinheiro still hanging on. They are continuing to gap fourth position Caleb Bensi. Bensi right now sitting 7 seconds behind Adriana Pinheiro. Just a few laps ago, it was 4 seconds.
Oh, we got a caution.
Oh, and the caution flag is out. Yeah, great catch there. Alec Balvans looks to be the car involved in that. We'll take a look here. The number 5 coming off of turn number 4, or turn number 3, actually, that is.
Almost saved it. Oh man.
There he goes into the wall there. Almost saved it, like you said there. That brings out the caution flag. Might just be damage to that front impact attenuator. Could be able to still run here with a new nose cone. But that certainly shakes things up here. Lap number 48 of 200. What do you think the call is? Guys pitted on lap number 32. Seems to be that tires are coming at a premium here. Do we expect to see a lot of drivers coming down pit road here? Some guys staying out?
I imagine you will. A lot of these guys also usually use the count back strategy of as long as 30 to go in the last few laps and kind of go backwards from there. So if they think that this is the right situation and if it were to go green from now they could deal with it, I think they would. Tires, as far as it goes, it'll just be a matter of how many people come into pit road, I think. So I think people are going to kind of wing it here.
All right, well, we'll take a look here. Some of these drivers I do know have crew chiefs and spotters up on their boxes, potentially helping them make their decisions, but of course many of them are working here alone, so having to make these decisions by themselves while also driving these race cars at very high speeds and very precisely. You do have to be precise with them. We'll see what the call is. Looks like Demerit making that move to come down pit road. We'll see if anybody drops out last second before they hit that commitment. But it looks like everybody's going to make that call to come down here and grab some fresh tires, grab some fuel. We have a lapped car staying out there to unlap himself. Rest of the field, though, coming down pit road and getting those fresh tires, getting the tank full of Speedway fuel. And we'll watch this race off the pit road, see if anybody's able to have a good run here on pit road. Good in and out of their box and potentially make up a couple of spots.
Yeah, and even something like this, as small as a pit stop, even on a caution, can play huge dividends through a 500-mile race. So, gotta remember to hit your marks.
Absolutely, there you say. So Demerit stays out in front, but Pinheiro moves up a spot on Brendan Treno. Nick DeGroot moving up 3 spots, a huge advantage there for the driver in the number 89. Caleb Bensi in the 5th position. Alexander Vandesant drops. Henry Bennett drops 3 spots, and Frankenfield up into the 8th spot. So we'll keep an eye out on how that plays out once we go back to Green Flag Racing. But for Pinheiro now, he splits up Demerit and Treno. So the first time those two have not been running 1-2, at least effectively out on the racetrack.
Yeah, and it should make things very interesting. I think having him re-rack as well, having Nick, who's very experienced as well in the Indy Ovals, up here now. Henry's back with the draft again, so I would imagine there's still probably going to be fuel saving and probably playing nice, but you never know. Something could happen. Track position could play for a huge factor, so I think that's something we're about to see.
Absolutely. Well, the pace car is still out. We've still got some lapped cars to grab the wave around here. So once again, we'll leave you guys for just a moment. We'll keep the nonstop action on the screen and be back with you just before we get back to the green flag. The pace car has peeled off onto pit road. Christopher Demerit is going to lead the field back to green. Interestingly, though, it's going to be Adriano Pinheiro who starts right behind him. So the question is, does Pinheiro go for that lead into turn number 1? Does he give up that second position back to Brendan Trano, or does he stay where he is, kind of split up this group as they were drafting back and forth, swapping positions with one another? Is this potentially advantage Adriano Pinheiro as he's now split up that duo who've been together all race long? We're about to find out here. Demerit bringing the field off of turn number 4. We saw last time around he went a little bit later, might be waiting again here. Just a little late, and now finally accelerates back to green flag racing here just past lap number 51. Quarter distance, and here we go. Christopher Demerit leads the field into turn number 1. Pinheiro stays ahead of Brendan Trano. We'll see, though, if Trano's able to get a run down the back straightaway. The rest of the field all single filed out. Again, single file on that restart. Guys already struggling a little bit with overtaking, so do you try and make the move? Pinheiro says yes. He's looking to the inside, heading into turn number 3, down the back straightaway. Adriano Pinheiro for the lead of the Indy 500. He gets it done. So Adriano Pinheiro, for the first time tonight, will lead the Indy 500. Passes Christopher Demerit and Brendan Trano. Now that puts those two back together on the racetrack. The question is, do they both want to be by Adriano Pinheiro? Will they make a move? Demerit here going for it to the inside of Pinheiro. Demerit back to the lead on lap number 53.
Looks like still everybody's giving each other room right now, so may not see many aggressive passes, but definitely going to be seeing some flip-flopping between the top two here.
Absolutely, as here comes Adriano Pinheiro once again. So these guys might start swapping amongst one another for the lead. Pinheiro back to the point. He's going to try and get another lap led here at the Indy 500. That really has given this 12 car a shot in the arm. He was already looking extremely competitive with these two leaders, as now this three-way fight for the lead of the race continues to heat up. Pinheiro staying high, though, through turn number 1. He's able to get it, though, turned in time. No worries there. Looked like a bit of a high entry there as well. And the same thing here from turn number 2. But again, getting that clean air on the nose seems to have a better impact on the handling than following that preferred racing line. Back to the inside here comes Pinheiro.
I think this is a great positive for the guys from the top 10 back, because having the draft now compared to when it was spread out, I think this will help them a lot to be able to stay into this race. Because this is still anybody's fair game.
Absolutely. So Demerit back to the inside of Adriano Pinheiro, up through the short chute, stays in front, but now we're about to watch and see as Pinheiro probably is going to duck out behind here. We'll take a look. There's the 12 car. He's going to look to the inside. He's got the run. Adriano Pinheiro, look to the inside of your screen, the left side of your screen. You'll see that white number 12 sneak through, and back into the lead goes Adriano Pinheiro. Great views here on board with Christopher Demerit in the number 2 car as he continues to follow Pinheiro off of turn number 4. We'll see now the run that he's able to get looks sufficient here. The question is, if you're Adriano Pinheiro, do you potentially defend 1 or 2 times heading into turn number 1, or are you okay swapping positions right now? Are you comfortable doing that, even though this driver that you're swapping positions with isn't a teammate? It's not someone who you have active communication with.
I think at this point it's kind of like one of those situations where you're at the tail end of a Talladega NASCAR race. You just kind of have to trust the person that you're with at this point. You can't really do much about it. And they seem to be doing a very good job of flip-flopping together, so they seem very comfortable up there together.
Absolutely. Meanwhile, Bensi and Van de Sant were running side by side there just briefly. We'll see, though, if Van de Sant can get another run here. Bensi, though, with the advantage of the draft from Nick de Groot in front, and that means Van de Sant not quite able to get close enough to make a move. Van de Sant goes way high in turn number 1. He's going to look to the outside of Caleb Bensi, but has to back out of it in the short shoe. Huge run there from Van de Sant, but that's going to certainly hurt his momentum off of turn number 2. We'll see, though. He might have something here for the number 21. He's going to peek his nose out just a little bit. Way too late to make a move here. Van de Sant hangs on in the 6th position here. Again, another high line there coming off of turn number 3. Potentially has some room to make a move in the short shoot, but then stays high off of turn number 4. I think he's going to make the move here. They are side by side down the front straightaway.
looks like Nick is giving more of a draft to the inside line. So, and still will make a pass on the outside.
Yeah, so Van de Sant, huge move there around the outside. First time we've really seen a competitive pass around the outside of this race, at least up inside the top 10. So showing that outside line could potentially be coming into play. Chad Frankenfield, meanwhile, now looking to the inside of Caleb Bensey, who's fallen back behind Henry Bennett. So huge momentum loss for Bensey after he got passed by Van de Sant. Frankenfield, though, not able to capitalize and make the move there.
And I think he made a smart decision there. You don't want to get too aggressive with it being the first fourth of the Indy 500. So I think he thought it was best to maybe just stick behind and find a cleaner way to pass, which looks like he's about to do right now.
Yeah, looking to the inside, though, not quite able to get there. And Bensey does a good job hanging on the outside. Gave Chad more than enough room on the inside, but just was able to run a little bit smoother through turn number 1 and 2 and stay ahead for right now. Meanwhile, Pinheiro, Demerit continue to swap positions. Pinheiro to the inside, back to the lead. Expect to see, though, Demerit quickly make his way past. Meanwhile, Van de Sant is the man on the move right now, just around the outside of Nick de Groot as well. Van de Sant, huge pace in that number 97 car, trying to move forward here and trying to see if he can get to that group of 3 drivers up at the top of the racetrack. On that last lap, ran 0.2 to 0.3 of a second faster than that lead group. Alexander Van de Sant is flying right now in that number 97 Dallara.
Yeah, and I think you figured that since everybody's fuel saving, might as well just get some track position, take advantage of it, you know. No one will really challenge you right now. Just get back into the draft at the front half and have a good chance, you know, for the rest half of the race.
Absolutely. Van de Sant right now pushing, showing his aggression early in this race, getting that, trying to get to that track position, getting to be in touch with those leaders. We saw how well it worked for Adriano Pinheiro. I think if you're in touch suddenly when it comes to pit cycles, if it's under green, it becomes a bit of a toss-up. It becomes a bit of a coin toss as to where you come out. But if you're at least in that conversation, you could potentially make a gamble to undercut and get ahead of these 3 drivers in front of you. But you have to be close first, and he certainly is doing the job to get close to these group. Look at the way he's gapped Nick de Groot behind him already. 0.8 of a second back is the number 89 car. Meanwhile, Van de Sant just 0.7 of a second behind this lead group and closing rapidly. That last time around, again, about 0.3 of a second faster than this lead pack. Here we go. Pinheiro continues to lead. Demerit looking to the inside. Demerit's going to make the move into turn number 1, and this potentially could be slowing the group down just a little bit, allowing Van de Sant to catch up. It certainly has its merits for fuel-saving measures, but could potentially be slowing guys down, as you do have to give up a little bit of that preferred line each and every lap as you're swapping positions with another driver. So here we go, Pinheiro back to the inside. Van de Sant maybe stalled out just a little bit, but he's still very much in the conversation here with these top 3 drivers.
Yeah, and I think he's in the right window right now to where he's not getting too much aero push with 3 cars being in front of him. So I think he's in the right position he wants to be.
Absolutely, and here we go, Demerit back to the inside. Meanwhile, Brendan Treno's really kind of just been hanging out this time by. He's probably the one who's benefited the most here. I think Adriano Pinheiro on that last stint, where he now gets a chance to kind of just sit behind the 2 guys who are swapping for the lead in front of him. He's perfectly happy, I think, right now, saving a couple of extra laps of fuel, doing, I think, what Adriano Pinheiro did last time around, and we saw how well that worked out for the 12 car. So certainly don't count out anybody here in this group right now, but these guys all looking the most feisty in this race so far. But Brendan Treno, Alexander Van de Sant both could be learning something here, hanging on, saving a little bit of fuel and just staying in touch with the lead group, while Pinheiro and Demerit kind of fight and burn fuel doing that with each other.
Even with the front group, it goes to show you how fast this whole group of people are, with being only 0.2 within each other in race trim. I think it just really goes to show how fast the group of 33 was this year, not only just to qualify, but to be in this race and compete.
Yeah, it's an absolutely exceptional level that these drivers are running at here. You'd need to be absolutely perfect to qualify for the event, and of course to win the race. You have to be even more than perfect. Everything has to go your way. Everybody that you see here, this is not an open setup league. Everybody here is running the exact same car setup. You can adjust your weight jacker to your to your settings that you kind of enjoy. So that allows you some tunability in the cars. But realistically, everybody here mostly dealing with the exact same aero setup, the exact same spring and dampers, all of that stuff. So it really is a pure test of driver skill here, taking advantage of circumstances that are handed to you. Right now we're seeing that here. These guys fighting it out up front, but certainly, again, do not count out the guys behind, because all it takes is a mistake from any of these top 3 drivers, top 4 drivers even, and suddenly the likes of Nick DeGroot, Henry Bennett, Caleb Benzie, Chad Frankenfield, heck, you can even go all the way back into the top 15 with Nicholas Sudik. They're suddenly back into the conversation here as well.
That's the hardest challenge of all. Can you do 800 perfect left turns? If you can, you quite possibly could be an Indy 500 winner. And some of these guys, even as good as they are, have had their fair share of mistakes, so you never can really expect anything but the unexpected at these cars, like I said before. And I think it's just one of the great quirks of what makes this race so special.
Yeah, it absolutely is. It's so unique. It's so intriguing the way it plays out, and it's such a long race as well. You can't throw it all out there. It is truly a physical endurance race, and obviously not as physical for these guys in sim rigs, but it's mental endurance that that you require there. And honestly, I mean, hell, turning left a bunch of times actually isn't too bad. It's probably on one of your arms there that's dealing with a lot of strain there. So potentially even some of these guys, depending on the force feedback they run on their steering wheels, could also be feeling it a little bit physically here towards the end of the race. But primarily just mentally, you have to run the margins so tight in these cars to get peak performance, to lead the race, to run up front here. But of course, you put one wheel. I mean, you see just how close there Demerit ran to the apron. And we'll see that again here as they head through turn number 2. He's right there below that white line. I mean, you go 1 inch further than that, you're on that curb, and the car's spinning out and you're hitting the wall. I mean, it's such fine margins these guys are working with, and they have so much confidence in the machinery underneath them. It's really spectacular to watch.
Yeah, and some of these guys have great muscle memory just from the seat time that they've spent around here. But like you said, it's a lot of mental side of it. You need 100% focus for 3 hours, which is something not many people can do, as even the main iRacing Indy 500s have shown. So it's not something that's easy. It's definitely not as hard as physically having to deal with the Indy 500, but on the mental side, it can definitely be tough for any sim racer.
It absolutely can here. So here we go. Christopher Demerit coming off of turn number 2, 219, 220. You can see doesn't have that draft. Nobody to punch a hole for him heading down this front straightaway, and that allows Adriano Pinheiro to get past. But now he has that draft, and already in the short chute, he touched 220 for a second there. What he got down the front straightaway, that just shows the sheer power of the draft here. Easily up to 225, 226, 227, 229 as he makes the move there. So you're gaining about 10 miles per hour here, utilizing the draft to get past somebody. There is significant pace to be found just by following somebody. So I'd suspect here that there definitely is a lot of fuel saving going on throughout the field here. It's not that the draft is weak or that you can't follow another driver. It might just be guys right now just hanging out. We are only on lap 70 of 200. But again, once we pass that halfway mark, you'll see that intensity pick up just a little bit, especially once we get to lap 150 or so. That's when it really starts to ramp up lap after lap. Once we get there, that's when things start getting interesting, because guys start taking every single lap much more seriously. Right now, it's just surviving, putting yourself in the best position strategically, and of course, track position wise.
Yeah, and that's one thing, which is an example of them using this high line, is that they know how strong the draft is. They know they can get right back up to the gearbox of the guy, even if they have to lose, a tenth or so of time on the high line going into the corners. That's completely fine, because they know they'll gain it back. And I think, like you said, once it gets to the tail end and everyone starts getting aggressive, you're really going to see the sheer power of what kind of draft these guys have.
Absolutely. Chat's noticed it here in the live timing. Obviously want to make a shout out here to Nick Sudik. We mentioned him running in the P15 spot. He started on that 11th row. I mentioned we could potentially be talking about somebody coming up from that 11th row, one of the guys who didn't make qualifying but are filling in here, who were kind of on reserve. Nicholas Sudik right now up 16 spots, the biggest mover of the race so far. up into the top 15 and could potentially see some more forward movement for him as the race goes on. Right now, just hanging out with Chris Wilhite, Victor Del Porto, Tyler Fody, AJ Musselman, all great, great people to be kind of running around here. All very strong drivers who could be coming into the picture here a little bit later into this race. So keep an eye out here for the number 16, Nicholas Sudik, in that kind of bluish pink race car.
Yeah, and I've been in his position before the last two Indy 500s, being on row 11, and I could tell you it's makes the Indy 500 a whole nother level of crazy. So I'm glad he's doing well. Hopefully he can get some more spots up here and make his way up to the front.
Absolutely. We'll keep an eye out on his progress throughout the night as well, and continue to follow some of our hard chargers tonight as well. The next biggest mover that we have here, Drew Akers, right now in the 19th position. Another driver who started way back in the pack, but making a lot of moves forward here. Again, up inside the top 20. Just kind of staying in touch with everybody right now for Drew Akers. It is a little bit spread out here further back in the group. We're not seeing guys quite close together on the racetrack like we are up front. So right now you're just kind of running your own race, kind of running to a number, kind of figuring out how you make it to the end of this one if we go green all the way. Here's a battle, though, going on for for the 9th position. Peter Dempsey making the move around the outside on Brendan Madonia. So Dempsey up into the 9th spot. He continues his charge forward, up 3 spots from his starting spot. Keep an eye out here. Peter Dempsey, one of our semi-professional drivers here, one of the drivers on the road to Indy circuit. Not sure what series he's running in this year. Believe he was in either USF 2000 or Indy Pro 2000 last year. Would probably have to do another check on where he's at right now. But great to see him kind of taking some time off, of course, after the season here, to get some running in the Elite Indy 500.
And love the Jordan paint that he's running right now.
Yeah, gorgeous looking car there. We've seen this a couple of times from a couple of different drivers here in the Elite Racing Leagues, but doing a great job right now, of course, repping those colors. Nice to kind of have that bright yellow car in the field. It's, again, one of the easiest ones to spot from our point of view, especially.
I think he's in a good spot as well. Him, Chad, and Brendan are all in still a pretty good position, I think, at the moment, to where they're not really out of reach. So I think more so they're just, like I said, trying to keep the rhythm going and just remember that still got about 130 to go.
Absolutely, and just a quick update on actually Peter Dempsey's resume. 2013 Freedom 100 winner, so certainly someone to look out for at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. He's gotten it done in an Indy Lights car, can certainly get it done in a virtual Indy car, so look out for this number 9 car as well. Meanwhile, a move a little bit further up the pack, Henry Bennett around the outside of Caleb Bensey. They run side by side. It almost looked a little bit like Bensey lost the front end for a second, but around goes Henry Bennett. And we'll see, though, if Bensey has a response here for the number 1 car for the Brit. Not quite, as Bennett looks to stay in front. No, he's going to dive late heading into turn number 3, but not enough momentum there to make the move. Up front, Demerit and Pinheiro continue to swap positions. Pinheiro back to the lead. They head down the short chute. Looks to be that they've swapped the positions, that they're changing spots on track now, because this time by it's going to be Demerit passing heading into turn number 3, and it was Pinheiro passing into turn number 1. They were kind of doing it the opposite way around a few laps ago, so might have had one straightaway at least where there wasn't an overtake for the lead. So not too sure when that swap happened, but it has in fact occurred. So Pinheiro now down the front straightaway. He should get the run to take over the lead here.
As getting close to the next pit stops right now.
I was just going to mention that here. So we'll take a look here at what it looks like for the top group. Last time they all pitted was on lap number 48. Since then, it's been about 20. So we probably went back to green flag racing on about lap 50. So it's been 29 to 30 laps here So probably within the next 3 or 4 laps, we should start to see guys coming down pit road here to make that call. So really intriguing to see who's the first one to come down pit road, who saved the most, or who thinks that kind of tire advantage is more important. There you go, Pinheiro, just as you were saying. Pinheiro, the first one to make that call to come down pit road, trying to do maybe something different. Super late call for this 12 car. Gets it slowed down in time. We'll see, though, how this fares for him now versus Demerit and Treno, who are back together once again on the racetrack.
Now, it looks like Pinheiro is going to be trying to do the undercut compared to what Demerit and Treno did. So it'll be interesting to see where Treno and Demerit end up coming out, because Pinheiro looks like he'll probably be solo once he comes out of pit road.
Yeah, definitely. So here we go. We'll see what the move is. Expect Treno to probably have a little bit more fuel in his tank and be willing to run a little bit longer. So there you go. They do split the strategy here. Demerit comes down pit road. Makes sense there. Treno stays out with Alexander Van de Sant following him as well. Remember, Van de Sant stayed out the most laps on that previous run as well. Van de Sant doing a great job right now with fuel save as he continues to close in on the lead group. He's again going to be, I think, a contender with these guys. Henry Bennett, Caleb Bensi, Chad Frankenfield, Troiano, T. Del Porto all staying out here. Will Height and Sudik all making up your top 10 right now. All of them are yet to pit on this particular stint here. So the guys we're really looking at, though, Adriano Pinheiro versus where is Christopher Demerit. So here he is coming off of pit road, accelerating back up to speed. Look to the back of your screen. You're going to see Adriano Pinheiro. This could be interesting here. Demerit might just have the edge here. There comes Pinheiro through the short chute. What's that going to look like? Pinheiro might just have the run here, but Demerit does a fantastic job with the overcut. I think he's actually cleared Pinheiro well, well and clear of Pinheiro here. Huge overcut there by Christopher Demerit.
Yeah, great strategy by the 2 car there. Be interesting to see now where Treno ends up with them and Van de Sant as well. So
yeah, so Treno still out on the racetrack. Van de Sant, the one to look out for. Here he is off of pit road, back to full speed ahead. And now what does this look like for Alexander Van de Sant? Where are those 2 leaders? He's definitely coming out behind them. Really comes out wide there off of pit road. There's no regulation there on iRacing about that. So here he comes. He's going to once again be right in there. He might beat Adriano Pinheiro here off of pit road. It looks like he is. So how about that from Alexander Van de Sant? The overcut by a couple of laps puts him right in contention here with Demerit. The question now is Brandon Treno. Where is he? He's still sitting on pit road. What does this do for him? Does he have an opportunity now to take over the lead? He's still waiting there for the service to complete. He now rolls off pit road, a short roll off there, back up to full speed, and here we go. Christopher Demerit into turn number 1 with Alexander Van de Sant, Adriano Pinheiro. Where is Brandon Treno? There he is. So Treno, could he be? It looks like Treno might now be the man to inherit the lead here off of this, as Van de Sant looking to make a move for second. Look at all the changes we're seeing here under green flag pit stops. The strategies are all over the place in terms of what's working and what isn't. In fact, it's worked the opposite of the way that it kind of worked before, where the undercut seems to have been the least advantageous strategy, as Pinheiro and Demerit, who pitted the first 2 of this group, right now running 3 and 4, the 2 who were leading the race, swapping it back and forth the previous way. Treno and Van de Sant, who stayed out a couple of extra laps, now 1 and 2 in this event. The question is now, do they start swapping positions? How does this change things? We've got a very clear 4-way fight for the lead. Henry Bennett, 4.5 seconds back from these guys. It is all about these 4 drivers on lap number 84 of 200 here in this Indy 500. All 4 of them have had a chance to lead this race now. Actually, Van de Sant did have the chance to lead under pit cycle. He wants to do it, though, off of pit cycle here. He wants to lead it for good, and he certainly looks racy here coming up on the back of Brandon Treno.
And Treno and Alex had very great pit stops. Treno with an 8.5 and Alex with a 9 flat compared to Demerit and Pinheiro with a 10.0. So I don't know if that's maybe due to less fuel or having more fuel coming into pit road, but they had some crazy pit stops.
Yeah, and it started here again, the swapping for lead positions as Alexander Van de Sant made that move into turn number 1. Here comes Brandon Treno to the inside, and here we go. 2 new protagonists to talk about, Brandon Treno and Alexander Van de Sant. So we've had all different combinations here. I think the only combination of these 4 that we haven't quite seen yet is that of Van de Sant and Pinheiro swapping it out for the lead of this race. But I'm sure we could potentially see that with another green flag pit stop coming up in 30 laps time. But Van de Sant back to the point. Meanwhile, a little bit further back in the pack, the fastest lap of the race was just set by Chad Frankenfield in the 15th, running in the 9th position, chasing down Peter Dempsey with Eric Troiano hot on his heels. Great little battle and scrap going on here for the 8th position. And another great... Nope.
I was just saying, Chad went with the overcut compared to Peter, so it'd be interesting to see if Peter ends up falling off and Chad can maybe get a little bit more pace on him.
Absolutely here. So the other battle we've got going on here, Nick DeGroot, Henry Bennett, Caleb Bensey, all fighting it out for the 5th spot. So I mentioned these guys are about 4.5 seconds back. Here we go, they're swapping again. So Nick DeGroot and Henry Bennett all going after it. These three have had a fantastic battle going on out on the racetrack here. Haven't quite been in touch with the 4 leaders of this race, but have been still duking out for a top 5 finish right now and have been doing a great job. All putting in some fantastic racing for us to watch here on the Elite Racing Network. Meanwhile, up front it is Brandon Trano, Alexander Van de Sant, Christopher Demerit, and Adriano Pinheiro.
Strategy by Alex is just absolutely incredible from 30 laps ago. I think it goes to show you with some solid pace what you can accomplish.
Absolutely, yeah. He really had huge amounts of pace there to kind of catch up to this lead group of cars. Again, makes you wonder just how much some of these guys might be holding back here early on in this race. Remember, we are yet to hit the halfway point in this event, just running lap number 88 of 200. But let me tell you, once you get past that halfway point, the second 100 laps seem to fly by compared to the first 100, at least in my experience.
Yeah, I think it may depend on where you are. I think if you're out leading, you're kind of, especially in a situation if it's a green flag stop and you really don't have anybody around you, it's going to feel like an eternity. But when you're battling like this, like you said, the laps just kind of wind down so fast, you kind of look down and go, okay, there's about 50 to go now. We got to really get serious about this. So
absolutely, it is. So again, battles continue to rage on throughout the field, especially for the lead. We've got a great 4-way fight right now. Unless we have a caution, unlikely that we'll have a winner outside of this top 4. But of course, still yet to be seen. A long way to go in this race. We could still see some major changes taking place. However, something that hasn't changed from last Indy 500 to this one is our premier sponsor, C2 Freight Resources. They offer complete freight management services, and they're ready to meet your needs today as well as your changing needs in the future. With thousands of qualified carriers in their database, they're capable of handling shipping for every type of good, from perishable foods to office equipment. Whatever you need to ship, they have access to the necessary equipment, including flatbeds, double drops, vans, tankers, refrigerated equipment, multi-axle heavy haulers, dump trucks, auto carriers, intermodal containers, and more. Check out C2 Freight Resources, a proud premier sponsor here of the Elite Racing Leagues. Also want to make a shout out here to the other 2 premier sponsors that we have here. Blue Egg Marketing coming on board this season for 2021A. Blue Egg Marketing is the marketing department for small businesses. If you're a small business owner, Blue Egg Marketing is your absolute biggest fan. Whatever your constraints are, they help catalyze creativity, and they'll help your business punch above their weight class. Additionally, we want to thank Response Energy, who came on earlier this season, and get the response you've been looking for in an energy drink, especially if you live in Florida and North Carolina, or excuse me, Florida and Georgia. It might be somewhere out in the south. Check out your local Target especially. You should be able to find Response Energy, a great sponsor here and a great energy drink there as well. Hoping to see them continue to expand. All 3 of those guys, great sponsors here, great premier sponsors of the Elite Racing Leagues. Happy to have them all on board.
And if C2 actually is making flatbreads, they need to send that to my house.
You know what? Yeah, C2, please. I'd love to see some flatbreads and yeah.
C2 on the flatbread, the logo. Oh, it'd be glorious.
Oh man.
See, we have fun here at the Indy 500.
Absolutely. Well, Alexander Van de Sande back to the lead here. Again, continuing to swap there with Brandon Treno. Battles a little bit further back in the pack continue between Henry Bennett, Nick DeGroot. They kind of dropped Caleb Bensey just a little bit here, so it might just be a two-way fight for fifth right now. Meanwhile, Peter Dempsey, Chad Frankenfield also fighting it out for the 8th spot here. Close little battle here going on. You can see all these cars really close together from about 8th position to, I want to say, about 14th here. Nicholas Sudik kind of filling up that back of the pack here, even Tyler Fody included in the back of that pack. And then a big gap back to Johnny Thomas, who's running a little bit on his own. Joshua Personette leading this next pack here of 4 cars. Drew Akers, Mark Murphy, Michael Hossack. That's your top 20 in this race. Just AJ Musselman, Brendan Madonia, the last 2 cars on the lead lap. So just 22 cars remaining on the lead lap. In fact, just 25 cars remaining running on the racetrack.
And it's great to see after lap 1 that there really hasn't been that much attrition. Even with the last caution, I think that he's still running. So it's been a really good job to see these guys through the long run do really well.
Absolutely, yeah. No, it's been great to see guys have been hanging on to these cars. They've been learning a lot and showing again why they are the top 33 drivers to make this field. Again, yeah, like you said, outside of that turn 1 incident, which took out a lot of race-winning hopefuls, especially because it happened a little bit further up in the pack. Obviously unfortunate there, but yeah, since then, Alec Balvan's had that self-spin, but the rest of these guys have been doing an incredible job just staying on track, continuing to do what they do best and showing why they are some of the best drivers here in the sim racing world.
Now we're getting closer to the halfway point, it looks like, so we'll see what transpires between this top 4.
Absolutely, yeah. Right now, Pinheiro actually has been kind of dropped a little bit by this lead group here. You can see that gap. And I say dropped, I mean, he's still hanging on about 0.6 of a second, kind of doing what Van de Sande was doing on that previous stint, just staying in touch with these guys and could maybe be learning from what worked for Alexander Van de Sande, saving so much fuel here, the last one to pit, potentially here the overcut might actually become the better of the strategies despite kind of the tire wear that we were expecting to see come into play. So kind of shocking to see it work out that way. But want to show you guys the weather right now. It continues to rise, 125 degrees track temp. It's still really slick out there for these drivers. Sun's still bright out there. The track is very hot. So still not quite at that point where we're expecting to see the temperatures start going down here. 2 p.m. local time in game. Probably around 3 is when we'll start seeing things maybe reduce a little bit, but maybe going to gain a couple more degrees Fahrenheit here in terms of track temp before it starts going down. So could be a long one here. Could be pretty tricky right now for these drivers, especially if they come down, get a full tank of fuel, have these slick track conditions. Also look out for them as the tires wear down because that could be pretty sketchy as well.
For 10th through 15th this is going to be heating up here in a little bit. Everyone seems to be pretty even.
Absolutely, there are a lot of even lap times run there on that last time around. Eric Triano, Charles Teed ran the exact same lap time actually there. Charles Teed with this really unique looking yellow and blue race car as he runs in the 11th position, up 4 from his starting spot, chasing down the Brazilian Eric Triano. We'll see, though, how he can continue to move forward. Kind of in a Brazilian sandwich as he's got Victor Del Porto right behind him. And Del Porto right now looks set to try and make a move, trying to find his way into the top 10. Del Porto up 5 spots from his starting position. And again, another shout out to Nicholas Sudik, up another spot here into the 14th spot. He continues to move forward here. He'll need maybe a little bit more momentum moving forward. He'll need maybe another caution to gain some more advantage. But yeah, I mean, these pit stops, if you can time them right, you get a good in and out lap, then you can make up a ton of time, as we've seen between the guys running up front.
Yeah, and it's one of the main aspects, especially with green flag pit stops, that can save you a ton of time here because everybody is just so close in race turn. And it's one of those things, if you didn't practice it, it can be a little daunting, but if you're super confident with it, it's really just all about hitting your marks, and if you can do that, you find yourself gaining a lot of time on a lot of other people.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really still at the point where it's run your own race. We've just ticked over onto lap number 100. When they cross the yard of bricks this time by, we will officially be halfway through the 8th running of the Elite Indy 500, presented by Rich Marr Florist, running in the Mega Driver 86 IndyCar series that we run here on iRacing. And the halfway leader is going to be Alexander Van de Sant as they cross over onto lap number 101. Meanwhile, the battle here for the 5th position, Henry Bennett gets by Nick DeGroot as they cross the yard of bricks. So halfway leader, Alexander Van de Sant. I think he'll pick up a bonus point there, so he's thinking about the championship, of course, as well. That's great for him. But of course, he doesn't care about the championship right now. I'm sure right now probably what he hopes is to be there at the end of 200 laps, to be the man leading coming off of turn number 4, or maybe even the man in second with how the draft's been working out. You got to be close, though, to make that move, and we could see a close finish here. As you see there, doesn't duck out until they cross the start-finish line to make the move this time by. But now you start strategizing, starting to think, all right, made it to the halfway point, start picking up the intensity just a little bit, starting to think about how you're making it to the end. How do you take what you learned in the first 100 laps of this race, and how do you apply that to the second 100 laps?
When we get 10 laps into this, we'll be probably dealing with a countback strategy. So 30, what was the last stint? 32 laps?
Yep.
So we may end up actually seeing some of these guys come in a little early, or they may run it out all the way to see how much fuel they can save in pit lane, because the main thing coming in towards the end of this is going to be how much fuel do you have towards the end, because if you have a lot, you could potentially save a lot of time on pit road if it's under the amount of what the tires take. So this should make it very interesting to see what guys' strategies are going in. Are they going to start pitting here in the next 5 laps? Are they going to go all the way till normal strategy? So it should make things interesting here.
It certainly will be here, as we've got about 12 to 13 laps before we expect to see guys coming down pit road. As you see there on the stint lengths here, just 20 laps into this particular run. So yeah, still a lot to see. And just again, based off of that last run, 31, 32, 33, 34 laps, all varies on how well you can save some fuel here to make it to that pit window, and when you actually end up coming down pit road here. So all depends on kind of who you are on the racetrack. Expect probably Van de Sant or Treno to be the first drivers to come down pit road, because they've been fighting it out up front here, burning a little bit more fuel than the two behind them. But again, that's another chance to shake things up, especially amongst this lead group, especially amongst the guys kind of running a little bit further back, as you've got here Henry Bennett, Nick DeGroot fighting down the front straightaway. DeGroot, does he have the run? He does. Looks to the inside, makes the move on Henry Bennett. These two have been going back and forth like the leaders of the race have been for the past 20 or so laps. Peter Dempsey and Frankenfield. Meanwhile, Frankenfield made that move on the 03 car of Dempsey for the 8th position right now, but Dempsey still hanging on there, trying to stay in touch with the 15. Probably won't have the run down this back straightaway here, as here they come. He doesn't, but still staying nicely in touch with the 15 of Chad Frankenfield. Might even have the run, though, heading through turn number 4, though goes a little bit high there, gets up towards the wall, and again, might not quite have the run here. We'll see. Peter Dempsey getting close to the 15 of Chad Frankenfield. Took a quick little peek, but decided better of it there. So Frankenfield staying in the 8th position for right now.
It looks like Chad strategy worked out with the overcut between him and Peter, because it looks like Peter can't get a good enough run on him with tire grip. Unless Peter wants to prove me wrong right now. Here we are.
There you go. So, yeah, Peter Dempsey back past Chad Frankenfield, just as you say that there. Honestly, if there's a commentator's jinx, I'd rather have that kind of commentator's jinx than some of the other ones that have occurred over the course of this particular season here. Back up front, Van de Sant and Treno continue swapping positions. Meanwhile, Demerit and Pinheiro, again, just hanging out, doing what they need to do to save the fuel. that they need to save here. Expect to see these two maybe run 1 or 2 laps longer than Trano and Van de Sant. Again, this time by as we get closer and closer to that pit window opening up.
That'll be interesting to see how much Chris and Pinheiro are holding back, if they are at all right now. So maybe they're just, like you said, maybe they're just saving enough to be able to have a quicker pit stop going in, and they may come out of this out front. Who knows?
Absolutely, and we're fortunate enough here to actually have an onboard camera here with Adriano Pinheiro, and we're going to show you guys what it looks like to drive a lap around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, just how crazy it can get. Also take into account that Pinheiro has some has some cars in front of him, so has to deal with that arrow as well. So here you go, on board with the number 12 car. You can see there, shifting up into the 6th gear. You've got that halo in front of you, so you've also got to keep an eye out for that. This is what the drivers are seeing, and you can see that high line he takes through turn number 1. It works well for him. It kind of gets clean air onto the nose, and able to run well low towards the apron in turn number 2. Now back down the straightaway, staying in line behind these guys, letting it rev out in 5th, going up through 6th gear, using that extra gear there to save a little bit of fuel, and then back down to the apron there because Demerit took that higher lane. Demerit goes down low. Pinheiro also follows him down low, getting some clean air, and that's how quickly a lap is done here. 2.5 miles completed in just 40 seconds. We talked about it earlier. It really is just ridiculous, the pace that these guys are driving at.
And like you said, the fact that they can get so close to each other at this speed is just somewhat mind-boggling, even in the virtual world, you know?
It really is here. So 223, 224, 25. You can see there is a pace advantage to be had here with the draft that Pinheiro's getting. We're seeing that, you know, he's still getting that draft. He's still utilizing that top speed here. But of course we. You know, what we don't get a chance to really understand is what the fuel numbers are. You can see there all of those numbers kind of blocked out on the steering wheel. That's obviously iRacing preventing us from taking a close eye at how well Pinheiro is saving fuel. So can't quite see the numbers these guys are hitting in terms of fuel mileage. So we won't quite know until they come down pit road here. But Van de Sant kind of fallen back from Brandon Trano. He's kind of stopped that battle between the two, fallen a little bit into the clutches of Christopher Demerit. So maybe the tire has gone out on that number 97 car a little bit early in this run here. Might just need to hang on to the end, or maybe just decided he's had enough of swapping back and forth for the lead, and he wants to come down pit road. He does come down pit road. Adriano Pinheiro follows as well. Christopher Demerit, the only of the top drivers to stay out.
And it looks like Nick and Henry Bennett also hit the lap before, so be interesting to see where everyone kind of pans out, because I believe they had about a 5-6 second gap on them. So does Demerit maybe have enough fuel to be able to go a couple more laps, or enough tire? We'll see.
Yeah, that is the question here. So Christopher Demerit up front there. He has lapped Henry Bennett as well. So if you're Henry Bennett, you're a little bit worried right now because Demerit hasn't come down pit road. Does he this time by? He does not. So Demerit did a great job saving fuel there in the 3rd position. He's going to now try and utilize the fuel that he saved here, try and pull out a bit of a gap. Obviously doesn't have any drafting help here. So while Trano, Van de Sant, and Pinheiro all come off pit road, actually pretty far apart from one another. Trano actually wins that race off of pit road as well. A massive win off of pit road versus Van de Sant. Kind of surprising there. Van de Sant stationary for only about 0.3 of a second more than Trano, but Trano with the huge advantage off of pit road. That kind of shows us potentially what we're seeing is here we go. Now Demerit comes down pit road, slows it down in time, gets down to the pit lane speed limit. And now where is Brandon Trano? Coming off of turn number 2. So we're going to find out here just shortly where this all works out in terms of where these top 4 drivers are. But this could be the most separated we've seen them for a little while.
This should make things interesting as far as pace. I think we can maybe get a better idea of how fast or slow people are going this spread out. So we'll see if maybe Chris or Brandon or even Van de Zandt maybe have some pace and clean air, because Van de Zandt definitely showed it in the middle of the race.
Yeah, so Demerit, this really did not work for Demerit here. He's dropped already long way to Brandon Traino. Alexander Van de Zandt also makes it by. I think Adriano Pinheiro might also get by. No, he doesn't. So Pinheiro, the biggest loser out of this. Kind of shocking to me there to see that. Pinheiro kind of had the most opportunity to save. He was the fourth car in line. He remains the fourth car in line. Eric Troiano, your leader, does finally come down pit road, handing over the lead to Brandon Traino, who remains about a second or so ahead of Alexander Van de Zandt, who in turn is another second ahead of Christopher Demerit. So we really spread out the top four now.
Yeah, and with lap traffic, this is also going to be a lot tougher for Alex and Chris to get through, because just as you're trying to pass these guys, it's just burning more and more tire up, and Brandon's pretty much sitting in clean air right now. So it's definitely a tough task, but I think a lot of them should be able to get through this at the end of the run, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. We will see what happens here. Again, so really shaking things up on this pit stop. Guys having much better pit stops than one another, and much better, especially I think outlaps and inlaps here. Despite the fact that Van de Zandt, I think it was Van de Zandt, Traino, and Pinheiro all basically should have come out together and been able to draft with each other, but they came out separate. But still had enough pace to get past Demerit. So really interesting how this all played out. Van de Zandt closing back in on Traino, but still 0.7 of a second back. He has this lapped car in front. He's going to have to try and get by this lapped car here if he wants a shot to get back here to the lead. But whoever this is staying in front of Van de Zandt, not making life easy for him, trying to stay on the lead lap. Finally, Van de Zandt looks to the inside. The lapped car shouldn't try to fight too hard, and he doesn't.
I think it'll be a lot easier now. You don't really have any pressure behind you. It's just really Alex and Brandon at this point. So I think Van de Zandt's in a perfect position.
Yeah, it really is a great position here for Van de Zandt. Half a second now up to Brandon Traino. He's got to use up a little bit of that fuel to get back up to the 3 car. But now with a 1.5 second gap back to Christopher Demerit, and then another 0.7 of a second back to Adriano Pinheiro, it really, like you said, frees it up. This 4-man race has kind of fallen into a 2-man race right now. Again, assuming we stay green here, Van de Zandt and Traino now look like the 2 drivers fighting it out for the lead, and Van de Zandt is coming fast. Once again, post a lap time there, about 0.2 faster than Traino. But Christopher Demerit, not one to... there we go. Joshua Personette spins around there.
We got a caution.
Right in front of Christopher Demerit, Joshua Personette, lap down car there in the number 29, spins it out right in front of our leaders, brings out the caution. So there you go. That certainly is going to shake things up. Guys just coming off of pit road. We'll see just how close this was for our 3rd place runner. Oof. Not too close there. So lucky for Demerit that he didn't have to do too much ducking. But looks kind of just like let's take a look here, maybe on the nose cam here of Personette. What happened? Maybe just got a little bit too low heading into turn number 2.
It looks like just maybe too much weight jacker, maybe too much steering input.
Yeah, it looked like the rear kind of went on him is what it was. It didn't look like he got too low or anything. It just kind of the rear gave up. So yeah, that weight jacker theory kind of makes a little bit of sense there.
But good saving it, though. No contact, so at least he's still in it.
Absolutely, yeah. Personette remains inside the top 20 despite that spin. Might get an end-of-line penalty, but he was already running a lap down, so it shouldn't hurt him too significantly there. And still has a chance to continue to move forward. The question right now is, you would expect guys to stay out here. I mean, guys have only been running here for, 8 laps, 9 laps? Yeah, so really no time at all. Some of these guys so short that we can't even see a number next to it. How about that? So, yeah, I'd expect to see it. It's like you mentioned, that count-back method here, where you've got about 80 laps left in this race. You probably do want to stay out here because it doesn't make sense to come down pit road. You're still going to have to make at least 2 more pit stops in this race.
Yeah, I'd see maybe the back half would probably come in to maybe top off on some fuel, but yeah, this is surprising.
Nope, there we go. Okay.
No. just everyone having a little fun. Thankfully, nobody made contact with each other.
Yeah, absolutely there. So, yeah, like you mentioned, a couple of guys towards the back, Chad Frankenfield, Peter Dempsey, Troiano, all on the back half of the top 10, maybe making a move to go for a fuel-saving strategy here to try and see if they can make up any time there. You can potentially run it 35 laps here, and if they get another caution, they could get some luck with this, but I'm curious to see how that plays out. Meanwhile, the leaders, doesn't make sense to give up that track position.
Yeah, and I think they may be in a good spot. I mean, you never really know. Fuel saving, like I said, plays a huge factor here. Everybody should remember the 100th running in real life and what happened with that. So really, you know, especially when we get to these last few laps, fuel and tires will play such a huge factor going into this.
Absolutely. So with that, our third caution of the night. Impressive that we've only had 3 so far as we get to lap 120. Only that one major incident. The other 2 have been single car spins and incidents. So right now, lots of drivers still in it. They're pacing right now. None of them coming down pit road. So while the lights are still out, or while the lights are still on the pace car, we're going to step away once again for just a second. Be back with you guys before we hit green flag running. Back to the action here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, running lap 122 of 200. These guys are about to get back to green flag racing. Less than 80 laps to go. Again, the intensity continues to pick up, especially now because the field's been grouped back together. Guys who are running kind of in on the backside of the top 5, backside of the top 10 here with a shot to move forward. Look out, we mentioned Nicholas Sudik up into 9th position now, up 22 spots, continues to be our biggest mover this race, but watch out for Brandon Trano. He's won so many of these events before, not here in the Elite Racing Leagues, but he's run a number of iRacing Indy 500s and has been so successful there. Knows how to get the job done. He's going to lead the field back to the green flag here, ahead of Alexander Van de Sant. And here we go. We're back to racing here in the Elite Indy 500. Through turn number 1, Adriano Pinheiro a little bit high there, trying to see if he can get some moves done on Christopher Demerit. He's going to look high once again, coming off of turn number 2, seeing if he can get a run. Meanwhile, Van de Sant peeks to the inside. He's going to go for the move down into turn number 3 as Van de Sant takes over the lead. And back up front in that number 97, the battle continues between Trano and Van de Sant as they continue to duke it back and forth in the lead. Meanwhile, De Groot staying close to Adriano Pinheiro. Henry Bennett and Caleb Benchy going side by side down the front straightaway across the yard of bricks. It's Bennett over Benchy. Keep an eye out for these guys as well. Trano back up to the lead. And Pinheiro still fending off Nick De Groot. De Groot now, could he suddenly be another name thrown into the ring as he's starting to look pretty racy later in this race?
I think we're really going to be able to see some of these guys' true pace or really see what they can do at full blast. So these next few laps should be very telling.
They absolutely should be here as Van de Sant continues to lead now off of turn number 4. Expect to see Trano looking to make the move down the front straightaway. Does Van de Sant defend? Not quite yet. We're not at that point in the race just yet. But Van de Sant does need to look out here for Christopher Demerit, trying to maybe make a move on him as his teammate does as well. So Van de Sant right now stuck in a bit of a sandwich, needs to work alone while he's got 2 teammates working around him. Van de Sant back to the inside, going to take back over the lead here. And just a reminder on this last caution flag, none of these leaders came down pit road. And the first driver that has come down pit road, that's Peter Dempsey in the number 03 car, running in the 10th position right now. We'll continue to follow that progress there. Again, just 9 laps were run prior to the caution coming out. So really no major need for these guys to come down pit road, especially giving up track position. But for the guys further back, more than happy to give that up just a little bit here. Maybe put together a unique fuel strategy, do something different to these leaders, put yourself in a special and unique situation. Meanwhile, Van de Sant back to the inside, takes back over the lead from Brandon Trano. Let's take a look once again here at the stint length. So 14 laps for these leaders, all pretty much on the same strategy. The top 8 all in the same strategy of staying out, like I mentioned, the lead car in the group that just pitted. That's in 10th position, Peter Dempsey.
Good for Nicholas being up 22 positions right now in the top 9.
Absolutely,
He's really
yeah.
got all the cautions.
Yeah, huge beneficiary of some of these cautions, huge beneficiary of just his race strategy. I think has been great. He's been moving forward. We really haven't seen this 16 car falling back at all either. So really exceptional work right now by the number 16 car. Again, 22 positions he's moved up here. Biggest mover of the race by far. Started on that 11th row. If he can continue this move forward, potentially could we see a top 5 result here for the driver of this number 16, something like that. Right now already inside the top 10. And like I said, he hasn't really fallen backwards since moving forward. So could continue to be just positive and forward momentum for this car. As again, he's kind of the last car in this lead group. So hanging on with the leaders, doing all he needs to do right now, showing great pace.
And I think all you got to do is just be in that position, just be in the group, because you don't really know if somebody can make a mistake. You know, someone could get loose. That's just what happened to Joshua. So, I mean, you got to be ready for any situation.
Absolutely. Trano and Van de Sant continuing to Caleb Bensley, all of these guys, Chris Wilhite and Nicholas Sudak as well. We mentioned this top group, all of them separated here, what is it, by 3 seconds? So all still fairly close here on the racetrack between 1st and 9th position. So keep an eye out for this because this race could get very, very interesting with all of these guys so close together. Yes, we are just coming off of the caution, but the pace has looked more, more impressive from that second group of cars outside of the top 4.
Yeah, and I think they were just kind of biding their time, especially, like I said, especially Henry and Nick. They're very experienced with this. Even Chris and Caleb have done a lot of these races as well. So I think with the caution happening, I think it was their indication that it's time to stay with the front group now as best they can. And honestly, it makes it way more interesting now that you got about 9 guys that can potentially lead this race if they wanted to get to the front.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, we talked about this potentially being a 4-man race, but I mean, this really is. Anybody in this top 9 right now looks competitive and looks like they could grab an opportunity if it comes up. But right now, it certainly, you have to be favoring Trano and Van de Sant because they've looked the strongest for the past 40 or 50 laps or so. They've just kind of continued swapping positions for the lead, and they really haven't gone further below, 2nd or 1st positions here off of pit cycle. They've just been doing, the best job, I think, so far of any of these drivers, but we also don't know what the strategy is for a lot of these other drivers. Are they waiting for the right opportunity to strike? Are they just hanging out, or is this the legitimate pace of a lot of these drivers that we're seeing right now? Are they really starting to push a little bit, and it is still Van de Sant and Trano up front? Probably haven't quite gotten to that point of full push yet, but still, you're again continue to see guys just pushing a little bit harder, giving less room to drivers maybe trying to make an overtake. Running lap 132, 70 to go here. We're approaching kind of that window to make 2 more stops to finish off this race here now. So keep an eye out for that as well.
I think one thing that's rather interesting is Pinero's just kind of still sitting there biding his time. He hasn't really done anything too aggressive yet. I think he may still have something, and he's still waiting it out.
Absolutely. So question for you here, Marshall. Do you think you could see somebody, you talked about how guys are kind of going backwards here from lap 200. We estimate about 30 laps on each fuel stint. So could you potentially see by lap 140 here, maybe even 145, if you guys want to go a little bit later into the run, guys pitting maybe early here, getting rid of these tires and getting a massive undercut here, trying to go completely off strategy and focusing on just getting 30 and 30 all the way to the end? Could that potentially be a strategy call here, or do you think guys are just going to continue to run it dry, kind of run the way they've been running so far this race? How do you start to approach these final 60 laps?
I think if guys can split fuel stints in a way to where like it's not going to hold up you too much, because you're going to have to take tires. Tires usually, I believe, take about 8 seconds. So if you can shoot for a fuel amount that will meet that 8-second delta, you're in a good spot at the moment. Trying to run it dry can be tough because on those last few laps on the stint, you're going to have to be super quick compared to the guys maybe on a different strategy. So there is different options, but the most efficient one seems to be, especially from what they've shown this race, is trying to keep the fuel amount as quick as you possibly can to where it's close to the tires. And like I said, the person that usually spends the least amount of time in pit lane usually wins this thing, so they're going to try their best to do that.
All right, well, we'll keep an eye on that as the race continues to play on here. The leaders continue to fight back and forth. Meanwhile, the rest of this pack kind of staying in line here, maybe thinking a little bit more of that fuel strategy right now as everybody's kind of staying close to this group, but also kind of just running their own race right now. You can see nobody really trying to make any moves, nobody really moving forward, and at least based off of what we saw from Van de Sant, when he wanted to move forward, he was able to. So right now could just be guys just hanging out right now. Again, still waiting for that opportunity to come up, but the laps are ticking down. You need to start thinking towards the future, towards the checkered flag. But again, still 2 more pit stops to go at the very least here for these drivers. So yeah, still a lot of decisions to make before this race is anywhere close to being done.
Yeah, and really that last pit stop will be the big moment. This next one will be huge as well, but you really need to be on your game on that last one. No mistakes, no sliding through, nothing, because that really could be your make or break for either coming out of this race out of the top 10 or maybe winning it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's strategy starts to play a factor here with the lap that caution came out on. If you can somehow find a way to save a ton of fuel, these guys do have, I believe, the ability to adjust engine modes as well. I don't know how much fuel you can really save in those different engine modes and how much performance is really lost, but that could also be something you're looking at here between these drivers. So many options to kind of find your way to the checkered flag. If you can make it, with the way that these guys are driving right now, with just that extra pit stop, I mean, this could be huge for some of the drivers that pitted on that last caution. I don't quite know if they're going to make it. It might be a little bit too long here, a little bit too ambitious to make it that far in this race.
Yeah, it'll be tough with about 6 seconds, it looks like, from Peter on back. So that delta will be tough to gain back right now. So they may have to pick up the pace here.
Yeah, and that could potentially be there. That fuel-saving group there, that group that came down pit road. Peter Dempsey leading the way in that group. Probably not great for him either, because he now doesn't have any kind of any draft to rely on here. Eric Triano not really trying to get by him either. So yeah, the pace isn't quite there in that group. I don't know if the strategy is quite going to work out there. Love the call to at least try something different. Maybe if cautions wave their way, excuse me, it could work. But man, right now it doesn't look ideal for that group. They basically have about I'd say a 5 to 10 lap window of basically when these leaders come down pit road, when they get to stay out, they need to hope a caution flag flies that gives them the track position over these leaders. But even then, I don't suspect the leaders will come down. So yeah, it puts you in a tough position for sure.
Yeah, and if you're in this front 9, you really want this to go green at this point, because I think a lot of them have a good idea going in of what they want to accomplish these last few laps.
They absolutely do, and yeah, what they want to accomplish these last few laps is be the first driver to cross those cross that yard of bricks there. Van de Sant, Trano continue to duke it out here, back and forth. Van de Sant a little bit high there off of turn number 2. Don't know if he's going to still be able to get the run here on Trano down the back straightaway. He is. Looks back to the inside in turn number 3. So once again, just that continuous swapping between these drivers. And where we're at right now is about 28 laps on the stint. Includes some caution laps in there. So probably I'd say expect around lap 35 on this stint to see guys maybe coming down pit road. So maybe in 5 to 6 laps time, we should expect to see especially Trano and Van de Sant making that second to last pit stop of the night.
And at this point, you're just more so trying to calculate out the fuel as best you can. Try to figure out if you have teammates, especially in this situation, Trano and Demerit probably have a little bit more of an advantage because of the communication between each other. So it'll be interesting to kind of see what everybody has in mind, because something tells me that they're all going to be vastly different. Even including Henry and Nick back there, because at this point with the group and how the pace has been, they essentially have nothing else to lose but make a chance at something. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of strategy plays out here.
Yeah, the strategy is completely opened up. The windows have completely opened up here. You can now make your stop and make it on one more stop after this. So guys have that opportunity to grab that undercut if they want to do so. But like you mentioned there earlier, Marshall, you might want to run a little bit deeper into this run so that you're taking less fuel on the final 2 pit stops. You run a little bit shorter. And you get more opportunities. But here we go. Van de Sant, though, decides, no, I do want to come down pit road. He's going to play that number all the way to the end of this race, so maybe a little bit of a longer pit stop here. Gets the undercut, and he's going to run 2 clean, probably around 28 to 30 lap stints here. So Van de Sant, the first of our leaders to come down pit road. Trano, Demerit, Pinheiro, all staying out on the racetrack. Pretty much everybody else inside that top group of cars staying out on the racetrack. Chris Wilhite, Nicholas Sudik also coming down pit road. So those are the drivers from the top 10 who all made that decision to stop. We'll see what Trano does this time by. Does Demerit go with him? Do they stay together to potentially draft off each other? What's the move here? They stay out on the racetrack.
And I'm thinking maybe if you're Pinero, you want to stick with what these guys are doing, because it seems to have helped him throughout this race. I think he may or may not be thinking the same thing, but I mean, yeah, he's in a great position still right now. It'll be interesting to see what the undercut is capable of this strategy.
Well, here we go. Trano and Demerit running side by side there, heading into turn number 3. That certainly doesn't help their pace if they're trying to get by Alexander Van de Sant here. And here comes Trano. He now comes down pit road. Demerit, Pinheiro all staying out. Nick DeGroot, Henry Bennett all coming down pit road as well. Caleb Bensi stays out on the racetrack. So the question is, where is Alexander Van de Sant? Down in the 14th position right now, just coming off of turn number 2. And where does he come out with respect to the other leaders? This is where things start to get interesting again, because you can gain, a pretty big advantage if you time everything right on pit strategy. Let's take a look here. Trano rolls off of pit road. This could be huge for Trano. I think he might have an advantage here. We'll see, where is Alexander Van de Sant? There's the pace of the 97 car. He's already up to full speed, of course. There's Brandon Trano coming off of turn number 4. Van de Sant's going to slot into the draft here. He'll have to suck back up to the rear of Brandon Trano. But Van de Sant right now losing out a little bit on that run. Doesn't quite put the gap, I think, on Trano that he might have hoped that he'd have to.
At least on the positive side, he stays in draft range, so I think he's still in a good position, but it'll all be dependent on what these next few do coming into pit road, especially Chris.
Absolutely. So here comes Pinheiro now off of pit road. He's going to fall way behind these guys because there they go, flying on by Adriano Pinheiro. He'll be, I think, fortunate to stay within drafting range of them. He should, though, just be able to, but gets up to speed there. Might fall a little bit further back, so Pinheiro, another kind of pit stop that didn't work out for him. Bit of a loser on that one as Van de Sant Trano battling it out again. So there you go. Like you mentioned, he was in drafting range, was able to close that gap back up. Christopher Demerit, how about this? He's still out on the racetrack, heading out of turn number 3, turn number 4. He's been running for a long time here. What's that stint length here? 33 laps. He's going to go around for another one as well.
Yeah, I think splitting this strategy may be a smart thing to do. Just kind of give a good chance to give both of them a good chance of winning. Both, like I said, him and Trano are both very quick around here, so makes things rather interesting to see where he's going to end up with this long stint, because as far as pace goes, he's still able to keep up with everybody right now on time.
Well, here we go. Christopher Demerit now going through turn 3 and 4. Expect he should come down pit road this time by. Does he? He's staying low off the corner. He does. So there you go. Finally, Christopher Demerit decides to make that call. Comes down pit road here. Do we see the same thing here from Eric Troiano? No, Troiano stays out. Charles Teed stays out. Victor Del Porto, Johnny Thomas. So these are all the guys who made that later pit stop. This is what we're seeing where they've kind of fallen a little bit further back, or they're now moving forward here on the racetrack because of that later pit stop they made. Trano and Van de Sant have been kind of duking it out. Pinheiro's back in the conversation here. The question is, where does Demerit now come out? You see those drivers just peeking off of turn number 4. When does Demerit get released? Now he does. Rolls off of pit road, off the pit speed limiter, back up to full throttle here. Where are the two leaders? Here they come around turn number 1. What's it going to look like down the back straightaway? They should clear Demerit, and they will. Just, I believe. And there you go. So Demerit back into the 3rd position, but it is a 4-way fight now. He brings Adriano Pinheiro back into the conversation here, and they're back in the order that they were just running in before. So no major changes on and off of pit road here as we head into the final 50 laps, the final quarter of this Indy 500.
I think this comes back to being another 4-car race between the same group that was in the middle of the race, so that should be interesting to see how aggressive they get.
Here they come all off of turn number 2. And again, this aggression starts picking up here. So it's Van de Sant, Treno, Demerit. Now Treno, Van de Sant, Demerit, Pinheiro. Do these top 2 continue fighting it out and the other 2 just kind of hang out again, or do they get involved in this fight for the lead? Once again, they've really done a great job at gapping that next group of car. Nick DeGroot here, now 3.6 seconds back after the pit stops. Henry Bennett making the move past Nick DeGroot. So Bennett now up into the 11th position. Remember, our top 6 drivers all yet to make their stops. Eric Troiano, in fact, the first of that group to come down pit road. Drew Akers follows as well. But here we go. This is the battle we're really following. If it stays green here for the final 50 laps, the winner is likely to be one of these 4 drivers. Alexander Van de Sant, Brandon Treno, Christopher Demera, and Adriana Pinheiro, they have all 4 dominated this race. They really have just been in an absolute class of their own. 2 of these drivers, full-time members here in the Mega Driver 86 series. 2 of them Indy 500 only entries. The question is who is going to come out on top. It's really exciting to watch the way this has played out, how they've kind of swapped back and forth in terms of who's been leading this group and who's been swapping positions in this group, who's trailed in this group, but it's always been this group of 4 drivers.
I think, let's see, Victor is the only one out of the top it off strategy group that is yet to pit, so looks like they'll be alternating here back to the top of the field again.
Yes, they will, and this time Van de Sant stays in front of Brandon Treno down the front straightaway. So potentially there's some more defensive moves here, or maybe Treno thinking not to make that run quite yet that time by. So it's something we keep an eye out on. Again, no move there from Brandon Treno. So potentially with the intensity now picking up, is Van de Sant less likely to give up that position? Are we going to stop seeing these swapping positions for the lead? Is it now race on for this top spot? I think so here. You've hit the final 50 laps. You start thinking it's time to finally start going in this race, time to really start pushing. And if somebody tries to make a move, you are defending that position with all that you've got.
Yeah, I'm still with a good group of cars out on track as well. I think lap traffic may play a factor just with the sheer pace that these guys are putting down. So you would hope that wouldn't be the case, but I mean, dirty air to the leader should add a lot of different dimension to this passing.
Yeah, fortunately you can see here what that lead group looks like. You see them just heading back down onto the front straightaway. No lap traffic all the way up until the 31 car there, who's halfway down the back straightaway right now. So nice clean air for a few laps for these guys. They should still catch that back of that pack probably before the end of this race here, and that will add an extra bit of intrigue to the event. But for right now, it is just a straight up fight between these drivers. Just a 4-way battle for the lead. No lap traffic, nothing else involved. Here we go. Brandon Treno to the inside of Alexander Van de Sant for the lead here on lap 155 of 200. Now does Demerit get by Van de Sant as well? Demerit looks to the inside. He doesn't have the run, though. Van de Sant staying close to Treno as they go fan out almost 3 wide there into turn number 1. You can tell the intensity's picked up. You can tell these guys are pushing way harder this time by. They do not want to give up any positions. Demerit and Treno especially really seem to be pushing a little bit harder right now, less likely to give up room to other drivers, but Van de Sant not one to be taken lightly here. He goes back to the lead, heading into turn number 3, back past Brandon Treno. Van de Sant's going to put up a very serious fight for this win here as they continue to roll here. Remember, still one more pit stop to go. A lot is still yet to change in this race, but these guys definitely looking way more aggressive than they were earlier on in this race.
Yeah, I think with the third guy especially getting closer with this little line group going on, I think you can really tell that these guys are really trying to find all the clean air that they can get right now because they want to stay up front.
Absolutely, they do. And there you go, Van de Sant back to the inside. The swapping kind of begins again. We'll see if they continue to kind of do that, or if they start defending a little bit more so as the laps continue to tick down. We're about to head into the final 100 miles and just a couple of laps of this race. So again, you kind of keep picking up, you keep reaching these milestones, and you keep realizing the end of the race is getting closer and closer. Once that final pit stop hits, you kind of know it's a sprint from there on out. To make it to the end of this one, you've got to put all your cards on the table at that point. Right now, you're still maybe running a little bit to get to that point here. Remember, lap 170 is when that window kind of really opens up, maybe about lap 165 if you want to play some fuel save strategy. But for these guys, probably lap 170, lap 175 to get a nice, quick final pit stop. And then race it out to the end, keeping the weight in that car fairly light as well. No green-white checkers either, so it is a fixed 200-mile race. You don't have to worry about saving a little bit of extra fuel in case you get two extra laps of overtime. We don't do that here in IndyCar racing. Once the 200 laps is met, 500 miles are complete, the checkered flag waves, and whether or not we're under green or caution, the winner is declared at that point.
Looks like Pinero's fallen off here a little bit, but he's still in draft range, so they can have a chance at it. But the group behind them, they just seem to be pulling away inch by inch right now, up front.
So here we go, Van de Sant again with that wide line, maybe trying to get the run off the corner, but right now looks more so in danger of getting passed by Christopher Demerit. Here comes Demerit to the inside. Could he now move Van de Sant all the way back to third? Demerit could go for two positions in one corner. He does. Demerit to the lead of the Indy 500. What a move there by the American driver in the number two positions in one, and he takes back over the lead. The question is, does he keep it heading into turn number one? He doesn't. But man, what a move that was.
Yeah, good for them for giving each other room right there, because that could have been catastrophic if somebody maybe made a little bit of contact with somebody else. So good clean pass by Chris.
Yeah, awesome move there, and now this is something to get worried about if you're Alexander Van de Sant and Adriano Pinheiro. Look at the gap they've already started to pull here. You've done a good job at separating Demerit and Treno for the past 100 or so laps. Now they're back together on the racetrack and already starting to pull away from the rest of the pack. This is not what you want to see if you're any of those cars.
And it'll be interesting to see if maybe Alex can kind of recover from the 3 wide, because I don't think he's been sent that wide in a little while. So see if he can maybe get recovered and get back up to the front with them.
Yeah, lots of marbles off the racing line as well, so potentially some pickup there on the tires. You'll lose a little bit of grip overall, and he's starting to fall back into the clutches of Adriano Pinheiro. Could something be going on here with Alexander Van de Sant? That really isn't looking great in that number 97 car, as again, they're fighting it out for the lead here. Demerit and Treno doing a great job fighting it out, but here we go. Look at this. Van de Sant has fallen way back, and Pinheiro now needs to start thinking if
this just changes everything. Oh, wow, we got a caution.
Caution out on the racetrack here. This is not the ideal time for it to come out either, because we are not quite in the pit window. Ooh, very interesting. Ooh, and that's just after the incident actually occurred there with Charles Teed. We'll see there, hard hit into the outside wall there through in the short chute there of turn number 1 and 2. We'll take a look and see what happened here. So Charles Teed up high in the marbles. That's not a great look. Oh, makes contact with Chad Frankenfield there. Frankenfield, not sure if he had any damage additionally there, but those two run side by side through turn number 1. Make contact there. Charles Teed, the one in the wall off of turn number 2. Let's ride on board again here with Teed and see if we can find anything that went on board there and kind of what it looked like for that driver. Tough hit there for Charles Teed, who was having a good race up until that point.
Yeah, it's just looks like some close racing that just went bad, sadly. It's a shame to see that happen. Looks like Chad just got a little bit of understeer, and Charles wasn't ready for it. So that's racing sometimes, especially here at Indy.
Yeah,
Got to be ready for the washout.
Absolutely, especially as we get towards the later parts of this race. You're less likely to lift, both if you're the guy on the inside and if you're the guy on the outside. So that obviously makes life difficult. So here we go. Interesting call. Adriana Pinheiro staying out on the racetrack. Wow.
It looks like Chad and Pinheiro are the only two that stay out.
Very interesting here. So Demerit, Treno, Van de Sant, the other three, kind of the big three, or three of the four, coming down pit road there. Again, it's going to be really tight on fuel here. We've seen guys run maybe 33, 34 laps if they do a lot of fuel save. Now they're being asked to do 36 laps or so of running here on the racetrack. Adriana Pinheiro probably banking, I think, here on another caution. But if it doesn't come, that could be really, really tricky here as we take a look at stint lengths. Only 18 laps, though, on that stint, interestingly enough, as stint lengths haven't quite been updated for the guys below. So look forward to Demerit, Treno, Van de Sant. All the guys third on back are now on fresh fuel and tires. At least should be. Pinheiro and Frankenfield all both staying out here. Really interesting call by these two.
Yeah, and I think mostly the hardest part is going to be the fact that all three of them are going to be coming straight for the front. And I don't think it really is a question at this point. I think getting out in front of the clean air as best you can and kind of being able to control the race is ideally probably where they're going to want to be at this point. And it's definitely going to be a tough task for Chad and Pinheiro because as we've seen through the course of this race, they have been very, very fast on the long run pace. They haven't really had much fall off compared to the rest of these guys. So it's Indy. I mean, you can gamble sometimes and it pays off, so you never know. But it's a tough ask for sure.
Yeah, it definitely is here, and I'm really curious to see how this plays out. This is, man, what an interesting situation here. And we've got a lap car trapped in here. I don't know if he gets sent to the back of the row or if he just starts right here behind Adriana Pinheiro because he's kind of trapped in here. That's AJ Musselman staying out on the racetrack in the 17th position. Again, one lap down. Because he's behind Pinheiro, will not get the wave around, and looks like he's not being told to get sent to the back. So that adds another kind of interesting situation in here because he'll be starting right up front with these other guys who stayed out on the racetrack. That kind of screwed him over with Pinheiro and Chad Frankenfield staying out on the track.
Yeah, I think he was hoping for Pinheiro to come into pit road so he could get his lap back, but guys up here gambling for wins. It sucks that you have to be in that situation a lap down, but yeah, hopefully he follows the rulings of Elite Racing League as far as lap cars, and we don't have any issues as far as what's going to happen fighting for this win.
Absolutely, yeah. We'll see here. The lights are out on the pace car. 165 of 200 will go back to green when it ticks over to lap 167. But yeah, this is going to be very, very interesting. Obviously, Demerit, Treno, and Van de Sant now also have to get by Chad Frankenfield to kind of rejoin Pinheiro. And also, of course, the question of fresh tires versus worn tires, about whether or not those guys behind can make it on fuel, or if you take the Pinheiro approach of just gun it right now and hope for a caution that comes later. Because for me, I don't see Pinheiro having even any remote shot at winning this race unless we have at least one more caution in this race.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough ask, but maybe he's just banking on one stop with maybe 4 or 5 to go, and he's just going to undercut everybody. Maybe that's his ideal, but it's definitely not the easiest position to be in for sure. Certainly
not. We'll take a look there. There you go. So AJ Musselman does get out of the way. He decides to dive down pit road. So hats off to Musselman there for doing just that, getting out of the way of the leaders here, allowing them to kind of fight it out here, especially as we're winding down in this race. And so now it's going to be Pinheiro, Frankenfield, Demerit, Treno, Van de Sant. So Frankenfield, kind of the new name in there because he stayed out here. Kind of crazy as well when you consider that Frankenfield was one of the drivers who initiated the contact that brought out this caution. So Frankenfield fairly confident that there's no damage on that car, but Of course, he doesn't know if there is until they're back up to full racing speed and potentially feels if there's damage to any of the aero components on that car. We don't see anything here, but we know very well up here at the Elite Racing Network that what we see up here in the booth isn't necessarily the situation down in the race car in terms of what is and isn't broken. So we'll take a look and see how Frankenfield hangs on here. But yeah, man, oh man, I'm really curious to see how this plays out, though, for these two drivers, because this could be a race-winning move by Pinheiro and Frankenfield. This could also be a race-losing move by these guys. It is a very ballsy take here, and yeah, curious to see how this plays out here. Lap 166 of 200. We'll take over to lap 167. Adriana Pinheiro is going to lead the field to the green, and we'll see here old tires versus new tires, about 18-lap old tires or so versus completely fresh ones. Someone relying on a caution ahead of guys who might just be able to make it if we stay green all the way to the end and they do enough fuel saving. Here we go, back to green flag racing, 167 of 200. The Indy 500 here just got very, very interesting. Adriana Pinheiro leads the way over Chad Frankenfield. Christopher Demerit follows in the third position. They're nice and spread out right now. This could
Looks
be
like we got caution now.
Caution, yep.
Looks like a restart caution.
Interesting. What happened there to bring out that particular yellow flag here? Oh, there you go. Damage hit in the back there. Who was that? That was that Caleb Benchy? Yeah, wow. That's Caleb Benchy there with damage to that car. So let's take a look here. So just guys checking up on the restart. Caleb Benchy hits Drew Akers, and they go spinning around there, and we've seen that happen before on these single-file restarts. That's not great at all, and for the guys who just came down pit road, that is a potential lifesaver here. For Adriana Pinheiro, that might not quite be what you wanted to see.
Yeah, I think the three people to watch in the fuel-saving situation who are going to try to stretch their fuel looks like is Johnny, Drew, and Caleb. So it looks like Johnny and Drew will be the two that really liked to see that caution. But yeah, I think if you're Pinheiro, maybe this is the time. It's a very hard predicament with that caution, because if you pit now, you end up in the back of the line, but you could possibly be good to go to the end. So he's in a really bad spot.
Yeah, this extra caution here now, I think, makes it that the likes of Christopher Demerit, Brandon Trano, Van de Sant, DeGroot, all the guys who just pitted, they should be able to make it to the end now, because this should save them the couple of laps that they ran there under caution. By the time we go back to green flag racing, we'll probably be on lap 171 or so. Yeah, I mean, they should be absolutely good to go there in terms of fuel, maybe a little bit of fuel save to make it to the end, but as a whole, all in a pretty good scenario. Maybe they all come up for a quick top-off. I wouldn't be surprised if some guys decide to stay out, and they do. There you go. So Pinheiro and Frankenfield have to come down. That was their opportunity kind of wasted. Yeah. That's going to be a huge hit for them. But meanwhile, Trano, Demerit, Van de Sant, DeGroot all staying out on the racetrack, of course, because they just came down pit road. They should now be okay to go to the end.
Yeah, and even with these long caution laps, they may not have to save very much, which would be it'd make it a little interesting, considering some of them will probably be flat out, especially towards the back, I imagine. So it'd be interesting to see, with this being possibly a 3-horse race, if Nick and Henry and company behind him can really keep up with these guys. It really could kind of throw a wrench into what Chris and Trano and Alex have been doing the whole race. So yeah, it's at least fuel strategy wise, we don't have to worry about that anymore. We can just watch this race and see what happens,
Yeah, absolutely. It's now should be flat out all the way to the end, especially if these guys are doing whatever they can here under caution. Again, turning down the engines completely, just kind of basically rolling around the racetrack if they can. I don't quite know how easy it is to throw these cars into neutral or potentially, in real life they don't have onboard starters, but in iRacing I do know you can have an onboard starter on these Indy cars, so potentially you can shut off the engines here and just kind of roll around, coast around the racetrack. That again allows you to save a massive amount of fuel here. And I mean, for us up here in the booth, that's probably a a nice thing here. We got a flat-out race to the finish, but I certainly wouldn't have minded a fuel strategy race either, where it's all about who can save the most, because I think that gives us a very intriguing finish, a la the 100th running of the Indy 500. So both, we had the opportunity for both very interesting finishes. I'm curious to see how this plays out now with these guys all given the opportunity to race it flat out to the end.
Yeah, and I think the one thing you hope for at this point is the mantra of cautions breed cautions, because everyone's been doing a really good job of racing around each other. So it'd be a shame if all that changed in a matter of minutes.
Yeah, that could certainly be very interesting. Yeah, I mean, we just don't know, right? Until it happens, I suppose. We've been very good about cautions. That's just the 4th caution here tonight. And fortunate that it happened, obviously, towards the back of the pack, so not too many cars were involved. It was just Drew Akers, as well as Caleb Benchy. But yeah, I mean, it could happen earlier on, depending on how we restart. All sorts of things there. So, yeah, a lot still to be determined here tonight. As we are running lap 170 of 200. Lights are out on the pace car, so we will head back to green flag racing on lap 172. We're just going to step away once again for a brief moment here, and then hopefully bringing you guys the action nonstop all the way to the end of this Indy 500. All right, getting ready to go back to green flag racing here. It's going to be Christopher Demerit leading from Brandon Trano, Alexander Van de Sant. These could be the 3 that are involved in the fight for the race win. Could Nick DeGroot and Henry Bennett play spoiler? They've been right there or thereabouts, just haven't quite had the overall pace of these leaders. But with 30 laps to go, or actually 28 laps to go, we head back to green flag racing. Could they suddenly pick up the pace and kind of find what they need to fight with these 3 leaders? Pinheiro right now mired in the pack, back in 11th position. We're going back to green flag racing, potentially here for a shootout. For this Indy 500, you'll see some movement in the back. Looks like I think we get underway and everybody stays green for the time being. I think everybody gets some clean getaways here and they stay close up front here. No major stretching out for Christopher Demerit. He doesn't trick Brandon Trano or Alexander Van de Sant. So now it's all about who gets the runs on this back straightaway. Can you stay in contention here? Van de Sant looks like he's close, though look out for Nick DeGroot. He's looking to the inside of Alexander Van de Sant, and here comes the 89 car. Can he get there? Not quite. He has to file back in line in the short chute.
I think Nick's thinking the best opportunity to pass some guys will be right now because the top three's long run pace has just been so good all race long.
It absolutely has been, but here he goes, pass 1, pass 2, pass 3, pass all of the cars. Nick DeGroot to the lead of the race. What a move into turn number 1.
Oh, it looks like, yeah, top 3 maybe don't have enough yet to go to the end, so it looks like they're going to fuel save a little bit.
Yeah, wow.
I don't think they were expecting, they were not expecting probably that bottom group to come unless there was some communications through iRacing, but
Huge.
yeah, this is interesting now. This may have made things a lot more interesting for the guys in the back if they got the fuel advantage.
Yeah, so Nick DeGroot, I mean, he's on the same fuel strategy as the rest of these drivers. All came down pit road the same time of this race, but I think Nick DeGroot just decided, I'm going for it. Heading into turn number 1, if he's able to make it all the way on fuel, they should be okay, and that's a huge move because if he starts defending that track position, it might be difficult for some of these guys to make that move here. But we'll take a look here. Christopher Demerit already looks racy with Nick DeGroot, but DeGroot has just entered his name into contention. What a move there, and that track position so important here at Indianapolis right now. The track conditions that we've been seeing. Take a look at the weather on the racetrack. It is starting to go down. Expect to see guys making more moves like Nick DeGroot made. There's more grip in the racetrack than there was earlier. Expect to see guys running side by side here towards the end of this race. But right now, it is the 89 car. Nick DeGroot leads for another lap down the front straightaway here. Lap 175, 26 laps to go.
And even the two to watch right now as well, right behind Henry Bennett, is Chris Wolhite and Nicholas. They're doing really well, especially being how far up they are.
Absolutely here, not giving up any positions here at all, and getting great runs off the corner as well for Nick DeGroot. I don't know if that's Demerit Trano maybe saving a little bit here, and they're just not taking the runs that are coming, but really interesting to see here that they're not quite able to kind of get there to the back of Nick DeGroot. Again, don't know if that's strategy-based or if that's just the pace right now of this 89 car. Has Nick DeGroot found something that he's just been holding back for the entire race long? Meanwhile, we've got guys going too wide here, coming off of turn number 1. That's Chris Wilhite and Henry Bennett. Bennett running that high line, trying to get by the 7 car of Wilhite. Bennett does get by around the outside. Gets a little bit loose though off of turn number 4. Dives to the bottom, but stays in front. That's going to check up Wilhite and allow Nicholas Sudik to try and get by here. Sudik up into the 7th position, trying to fight it out for 6th. Not quite able to get there just yet this time by. But the action has certainly picked up here throughout this pack. Everybody feels like they've got an opportunity. They've got a shot at this win here. They've all got pace in this car that they've been able to find now. They've all been holding back for the past 175 laps. And now they get a chance to really show off what they're all made of. All of these drivers inside this top 8, top 9, top 10 even have a potential shot to win this race, but they need to start making moves now, especially if you're further back in the pack. If you're one of these leaders, you can hang out just a little bit longer, and we're seeing that right now as Demerit, Trano, Vandesen all trading behind Nick DeGroot. And don't count out Henry Bennett hanging out in the 5th position, not letting any of these guys run away. We know he comes on strong in the end of these races. Defending Indy 500 winner, could this suddenly play into his hands as well? Wilhite with the move on Bennett and on Vandesant. He'll get it on Bennett, not though complete on Alexander Vandesant. And now Bennett looks to the inside on Wilhite. Again, not quite able to get there, but takes away some of that line from Chris Wilhite. What exceptional racing we're seeing here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Guys looking all over the racetrack, looking for whatever possible advantages they can find. Nick DeGroot continues to lead. I've got to imagine that Demerit and Trano don't think that they're going to make it to the end of this race if they just go out front and lead all the way. We've got a car on the wall. We've got a crash. Adriana Pinheiro, I think, was involved in that. Johnny Thomas, Mark Murphy, who was it? Eric Troiano. Brandon Madonia? No. Eric Troiano is the main car involved in that one, and the yellow flag is out again. Sets these guys up to be in a reasonable position, so there you go. Oh, there is damage to Pinheiro's car. That's kind of a bit of a cover there, so look out for that, and that's one of the issues of being further back. But Brandon Madonia, or excuse me, Eric Troiano, involved in that incident there, just kind of tapped that wall coming off the corner there. So here we go, watching, and they're just understeer, massive understeer for Brandon Madonia. You'll see Adriana Pinheiro stops on by, and there you go. It's back around there for Brandon Madonia. bringing out the 5th caution here of the night. And, he's having a tough time getting back to pit road, and he's going to have to, in fact, tow it. It's day over there, unfortunately, for that car.
Yeah, when you're that close to too wide and you're getting all that understeer, there is just so much air wash you're dealing with. Even getting off the throttle, there's truly nothing you can do about it at that point except be along for the ride. So it's a shame that had to happen with it being so far into the race.
It really is, yeah, to make it this far, to be running for 2 hours and 40 minutes and then to have that happen certainly it's a painful experience, but that's part of it. The aggression picks up. Guys start fighting just that little bit harder, and of course we get to this point now where there is certainly a bit of a guys are more likely to get crashed out here. So what's the call here? Everybody's staying out. Adriana Pinheiro, the first car to come down pit road. Johnny Thomas, Mark Murphy all making the call to come down pit road. You don't really need the fuel here. I think a lot of these guys might be coming to fix some damage or something like that if they're involved in any of the incidents that took place on this caution here.
Yeah, and I think this maybe removes the fuel-saving concerns that maybe the top three were having. So, I mean, even for Nick putting himself in this position is huge. That was the perfect opportunity to take advantage of. I think it was a little unexpected from even what we were watching. So I think if you're Nick right now, you're in the perfect position, even being in front of these guys, because now you're dealing with used tires. Guys are going to have to, guys aren't, as you could tell, aren't being very nice to each other anymore because we're getting towards the end of this race. So, I mean, I think passing is going to be a lot more difficult now than it was maybe 30 laps ago.
Definitely. And Nick DeGroot here looking to grab the second leg of what we have, the Aegis Worldwide Triple Crown. Excuse me if I mispronounced that there. Aegis Worldwide, they're a recruiting firm based out of Indianapolis. They've got offices, though, in Chicago, Cleveland, and Detroit, and they've been a sponsor of the Triple Crown that we host here every season in the Mega Driver 86 Indycar Series. The first race was complete with the Signing Day Sports 500 at Pocono. Henry Bennett was your winner there. He possibly has the chance to complete the second leg of the Triple Crown as well here at the Indy 500, though we could see a different winner here tonight. It certainly looks to potentially be that way, though with Bennett hanging on in 6th right now. Certainly don't count him out. And the final leg of that Triple Crown takes place December 10th, 2021, right here on the Elite Racing Network, the US 500 at Michigan International Speedway, 250 laps there, so make sure you're tuned in there. 3 exceptional races, 3 long races for sure, ones that require the most out of these drivers, and that's why it's part of the Aegis Triple Crown. So thanks again to Aegis for Worldwide for coming on board and sponsoring these 3 events, and of course special awards and special honors are of course given to drivers who are able to complete the Triple Crown, especially those who are able to grab at least 2 legs of it. So we'll keep an eye out on that, of course, with just one of the races complete. Still a lot yet to be decided in that front, but for the Indy 500, it does kind of stand alone, doesn't it, here? Really no other race comes close to what this race means to a lot of these drivers, and I'm sure many drivers will take this race over anything else in the Triple Crown.
Yeah, and I think with this race as a whole, even when you're racing it, I think you kind of forget, especially in leagues like this, that there's even a championship going on. I mean, you have Henry and Alex, who are both contenders for the championship this year. I could tell you that that's probably the last thing on their mind right now. So I think this shows you the scale of winning a race like this, what it means to people. Even if you're just the teammate, the spotter, the crew chief, whoever, just to be a part of it is something that's very special. No matter what time of the year it is, whether it's May and November, it's just a great time to win at a place like this.
Yeah, absolutely, it really is. It's so special. We've seen guys how seriously they take this event, and it just continues. The level of competition in this series continues to get better each and every year. So always, it's always exceptional to see where guys are able to step up each and every year, and the guys who return as well, how they improve from year to year is really, really great to kind of see and watch the way things shape up. Nick DeGroot is having a fantastic season as a whole right now, and of course right now, this is right now so far, I think even been the highlight even of his great season so far. If, leading the Indy 500, if he's able to seal the deal, that could be huge as well. But still a long way to go. There'll be 18 laps to go when the green flag waves for these drivers. And it'll be an all-out sprint to the finish. Again, aggression levels are rising. Guys are starting to push each other harder and harder. So if there is a run that comes for Christopher Demare or Brandon Traino, expect this time to see them take it.
Yeah, this is really the send it time. If you got a gap, you got to go for it, because track position is going to play a huge factor. Once the tires wear down here at the end, you're going to want to be out front in the clean air, because it'll be so difficult to come from 5th or 6th. So I imagine you're going to see a lot of guys here take advantage of this restart.
Yeah, absolutely. It was. It's going to be really interesting. I think look out for the likes of Chris Wilhite, Henry Bennett. They could make moves similar to what Nick DeGroot did. If anybody's kind of sleeping in turn number 1, you can get a huge run because you've got 4 or 5 cars punching a hole in the air for you. So this opens up a lot of opportunities for guys further in the back of this pack. But we'll see just how this plays out. Can Nick DeGroot get a good enough getaway here? He's going to run a little bit early here. He steps on the loud pedal, potentially for the last time here. We're going back to green flag racing. Brendan Traino heads to the inside here of Christopher Demare. That could be a penalty. That's changing lanes before they cross the start-finish line. We'll see what the call is there, but that could be huge there for Brendan Traino. We don't allow that here in the Elite Racing Leagues. Changing lane before the start-finish line on a restart, you kind of have to wait for that one to play out. So we'll see again what the officials call that. Traino up into second position for the time being. That could be very short-lived. If there's a caution, he could get lucky and just get an end-of-line penalty. If there's not, he could be sent around for a stop and go or a drive-through penalty that will completely ruin his race-winning chances.
Yeah, and I guess I'll go back and look at the replay. But yeah, it's be a shame if that's what it had to come down to ending your race to a penalty like that. But rules are rules, And at least at this point, he goes into the lead. And I guess we'll see what happens through race control and see what they want to do.
Absolutely, yeah. We'll wait for that call and potentially see, what's going on there, as and what that call ultimately is. But right now, Brandon Traino doesn't really care because he is leading the Indy 500 with 17 laps to go. And Nick DeGroot right now doesn't have a response for the number 3 car. He's staying close, though. He's going to look to the inside, and here we go. Nick DeGroot does make the overtake for the lead to the inside here in turn number 1. 16 laps to go in the Elite Indy 500. And as we get close to the end of this event, we're going to be joined by a very special guest. I mentioned at the start of the race, we've got RC Anderson joining us in the house to follow the final couple of laps in this event. RC, how are you doing there? An actual real-life racer here at the Indy 500. You've done it before, or you've attempted to qualify for the race before. You've driven an IndyCar around this racetrack. I know your team's also in the comment section here on YouTube watching from home. But happy to have you here calling the end of this race with us.
Yeah, I'm still working on logging in, but I'm watching it on my phone as I'm figuring that out. So I've been watching the race on my way back from West Palm, so it's been interesting. The start was definitely a little bit crazy.
Yes, yeah, it definitely was. A lot of cars involved in that one, a lot of good cars, but I mean, we've had a great race going on here. A couple of cautions here making this now just a straight-up shootout for the overall race win. So right now between Brandon Traino, Nick DeGroot, Christopher Demare kind of have been a bit of a breakaway here of these 3 cars over Chris Wilhite in the 4th position.
Yeah, you get to see this a lot at the end of the races here. I mean, you get a really big long green flag run in the middle of the race, and then at the end it's always a couple of yellows and then it's a shoot at the end.
Yeah, you could tell now that really nobody wants to give anybody any room anymore, so it's been very interesting to watch the racecraft between each other.
Yeah, it really has been interesting as here we go, another swap for the lead here. The question is, can DeGroot stay ahead of Demare? I think if DeGroot can stay in that second position, he's got a real shot. The problem is Demare right now is absolutely hounding the gearbox there of that 89 car, making it really difficult for when the swaps occur for DeGroot to kind of get back into position here. But so far doing a good job between these two, and DeGroot back up to the lead. Loving what we're seeing here from this 89 car. He's really come alive in these final couple of laps. That move down the inside, earlier on in the race to pass 3 cars into turn number 1, could that have been the move that put him in contention for the win, and could that be the move that gave him the opportunity to finally win this event? He still has to get through Brendan Trano and Christopher Demerit, though.
Yeah, it's definitely not an easy task, but Nick's taking full advantage of where he is in track position-wise, and he's doing a hell of a job right now. So
Caution.
And we got a caution now.
Caution out on the racetrack. It continues to add to the intrigue of this event. There's the pace car. I think they're going to have to slow down just a little bit to allow it to pass there. Looks like it might have been Peter Dempsey involved in this one. There, just a hit there to the outside wall in the short chute, off there and spins it around there. So yeah, Peter Dempsey hard into the wall off of turn number 4, bringing out the 6th caution, I believe, of the night. Might be 7th there. Everybody else able to avoid. So another one of those one-car incidents. Fortunate to not see too many other cars involved in that, but the day over for the Freedom 100 winner from 2013. Peter Dempsey's day comes to an end there. Unfortunate for him. Again, late in the running here, 3 hours into this event, 2.5 hours, 2 hours, 50 minutes into this event here. Almost there to the end, and that's got to be heartbreaking.
Yeah, it's something, especially in these situations, you're even in his spot, you just kind of want to make up as many spots as you possibly can before the finish is over. And so, yeah, it's like I said prior, it's a shame to have a mistake like that happen so far into the race.
Alrighty, so here we go. The lights stay on the pace car. Again, nobody really making that call to come down pit road. Just doesn't make sense to give up the track position at this point. They're all good on fuel. We kind of know what they have in terms of tires. They all have similar tires. It really is just, who's going to be in the best position by the end of this. And RC, want to get your thoughts kind of what it's like behind the wheel here. You're going to go back to green flag racing here with about 9 laps or so to go. Do you go straight away? Do you wait until the last couple of laps? What's the best move around here for Indy to kind of ensure? And what person do you want to be right now in kind of this top 5? Because I would assume at least with this few laps to go, our winner would come from this top 5 group.
Yeah, I mean, I think you see it in all the leagues. It's early is usually better. It always usually turns out better. You get the jump because you can go when you want. If you wait longer, people start getting antsy, and then they might get the jump on you. I think always going early is the way to go.
All right, so we'll keep an eye out on that there. So Brendan Trano, expect to see him roll early and try and hold up or hold that gap to Nick DeGroot. Not give DeGroot an opportunity, but of course, Trano punching a hole in the air for everybody behind him. Makes certainly defending a little bit trickier, but I think the way the track is right now might still be a little bit slippery for them to run too wide all the way around, but 118 degrees Fahrenheit, it continues to get cooler, and that means there's going to continue to be more grip offline, especially, and just more grip in general in this racetrack, so could give guys the opportunities to make some more ballsy moves here. But of course, caution flag comes out. We don't run that extra 2 laps. We don't run overtime, anything like that. Of course, is a purely 500-mile race, so a late caution here could decide this. Couple of guys to keep an eye out for in this race. Chris Wilhite running in the 4th position. We've kind of talked about him pretty casually, but up 18 positions from his starting spot, so he's made great forward movement all throughout the night in that 7 car. Right now running in the 4th position, could be one of those drivers in contention to win here. Certainly kind of in a great position as a whole, again, behind the likes of Demerit, DeGroot, Trano, who've been dominating the last couple of laps of this race. Also, of course, another shout-out to Nicholas Sudik, up 24 positions, continues to be our biggest mover of the race there. Started, I think it was 31st or somewhere on that final row of the pack, now running in the 7th position here. So continues to move forward. Great run again by Nicholas Sudik. We'll see again if he can make some more movement on the start here. Might be a little bit too far back to really go all the way for the win, but if he can grab a top 5 finish, something to be very proud of there, starting all the way on the final row. Lights are out on the pace car. They're going to lap around for one more time here to allow Brandon Trano to set the pace, which means we'll get back going with 8 laps to go. This could get very, very exciting as guys get very aggressive, in the final couple of laps. A lot to look out for in this pack.
And you got a lot of good guys that have been in this position many a times, especially at Indianapolis. So it'll be interesting to see the gamesmanship and the chess going on at 200+ miles an hour.
I think you're really going to see the winner come out of the top 3. Whenever you're any further back than about 3rd position, if you're in the 4th and 5th, when you track out of the corners of the draft, the straightaway is just not quite long enough to get there. So you see the top 3 mixed up a lot, but it's really tough to get by anybody a little bit further back.
Yeah, and it seems like the aero wash has been pretty bad there from 4th on back. So I think even 3rd place, like probably the last few laps, he's finally been getting up near the gearbox finally. So yeah, you're probably right on that.
All right, well, just one more pace lap here to go, and hopefully the final pace lap here of the night. Brandon Trano will lead the field back to the green flag in 2.5 miles time here. Going to be interesting to see how he takes this final restart. Of course, with the teammate and Christopher Demeritte, if he can communicate well with Demeritte, obviously they can potentially jump Nick DeGroot there to try and get the two of them working together and make it just a two-way fight for the lead between teammates and for the win between teammates. But interestingly enough, no call on the Brandon Trano move to the inside, so potentially. We did away with that rule for this particular race. I thought that was well before the start-finish line. Maybe we don't run that particular rule here in the IndyCar series. I don't know if you know that, RC, the passing to the inside before the start-finish on restarts.
Yeah, I think that's why they have this extra lap here after you take the green, that they come take this green, because in IndyCar, as long as you have the run, it's not really a part of the actual IndyCar rules. So I think it's just in the same thing as regular NASCAR rules when you run the NASCAR series stuff, especially with Elite, the lane changing thing is a thing. But the IndyCar series, they try to keep it as close to the rule book as the IndyCar series is.
All right, well, great to know there. So it is legitimately Brandon Trano then up front. No penalty call there, and he's going to actually wait a little bit here before finally going. He does now get underway. Doesn't get great separation from Nick DeGroot there, so this could potentially backfire on him heading off of turn number 2. We'll see, though, as here we go. Through turn number 1, 8 laps to go in this Indy 500. It's Trano from DeGroot, from Demeritte, Wilhite, and Van de Sant, your top 5. Here they come down the back straightaway, and the drafting begins. Popping out to the inside, Nick DeGroot already looking as the yellow flag out once again. Who was in front? It was Nick DeGroot. It's not going to be the final caution of the race here. Interestingly enough, but Nick DeGroot did just have that position, and that might honestly be the worst position here if it is a one-lap shootout to the end of this race here. It's Alec Balvans who brings out the caution flag for the second time tonight. We'll take a look there, just loses it there. Weird, that almost looked like the rear suspension kind of snapped on that car. That was kind of a very strange situation. Not too sure.
Maybe just dealing with some cold tires.
Yeah, there was
had too much weight jacker into it going into 2, or maybe the wind. Nope, won't be the wind.
Yeah, interesting there, but yeah, just completely loses the rear end there for the number 5 Alec Balvans. Hard hit into the wall, tows it back to pit road, and again, day over there for Balvans there. Was already having a bit of a rough run of it there, running in the 18th position, running a lap down. Did good to recover from that first incident that he got, but that damage a lot more severe that time by. So, all right, we go back to the caution period, and now if you're Nick DeGroot, do you want to be in this position as the laps continue to tick down here? Probably going back to green with, maybe 4 laps to go? Maybe even 3 laps to go here. So this could be really, really intriguing. where do you want to be? Do you want to be this guy who's leading the field back to green, that you dictate the pace, or did you want to be the guy in second where you kind of know you can get a run down the back straightaway and potentially make a move? This is interesting.
Yeah, I still think it's going to be whoever's in second coming down the back straightaway is going to get this thing. I mean, that wasn't last season, but the season before, it was, again, this race was like 3.5 hours long or something like that, and I ended up winning by, like, I think it was .001 at the line, so it's going to be really close for sure.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye out for that. Yeah, it'd be a shame to end under caution. We certainly don't want to see that happen. But right now, it's just been not super clean from these guys on these restarts. There have just been mistakes happening all throughout the field on these restarts. Again, guys just getting aggressive with each other, trying to gain track position. But especially for guys a little bit further back there, maybe it might just be a little bit too much too late there that are bringing out these cautions here. I'm sure Nick DeGroot wouldn't mind a caution flag coming out probably around turn number 1 next time around. To kind of secure a victory for him, but yeah, certainly from the point of view of us up here in the booth, we'd love to see a nice strong race here to the end. Look, of course, fuel concerns all out of the window. It's really just who's going to get that best opportunity heading into the final couple of laps.
Yeah, if we get something close like last year, like RC pointed out, man, that would be that would make this a real interesting ending.
Yeah, it was definitely a close one. I think it was me, Stefan, and Connor up at the front in the top 5 or so, and it was just a big mix-up. Oh, I think we had a good 5-lap run to the end.
Yeah, it was fun to watch from the back part of that little group. But I mean, even I think Connor tapped the wall coming out of 4. I think Henry was in the group with you guys. It was absolute chaos going out of 4 on that finish.
I honestly think I might have lost that race. He was trying to squeeze me against the wall, and I think we ended up touching, and somehow I ended up winning it. But it was definitely a close one. It was weight jacker on full giving you front end, and hope that doesn't spin.
Yeah, how about that? Light's still on the pace car, so we're going back to green here, probably with 3 to go. I'd expect them to go off here this time by. They do. So 3 laps to go when we finally go green. I believe so, actually. I don't know if we, on late race restarts, if we go straight at the pace car peeling off. That's another rule that we sometimes have here, so we'll have to see. I would assume we will continue to just run around here. It might just be on final lap restarts. But if we do go back 3 laps to go, it's going to be tough, and it might just be a back and forth here. It might be either Treno or DeGroot, I think, maybe coming away with this win here. So with that being said here, let's put it all on the line here, boys. From this top group of cars, who are you going to say is going to win this Indy 500?
Dude, I mean, it's tough to bet against Treno. Brandon's just so good around here, and he's had so much experience and so many wins. It's so tough to bet against him, so I got to go with Brandon.
I think I'm going to go with Nick DeGroot. He's been super close multiple years, and I think it was the year I ran. He was right up at the front there, and we had some contact that was brought up the last yellow. So he's just been really close, and I think he wants it really bad. So it's going to end up being a chess match.
All right. Well, I mean, I'll throw a little bit of a wrench in the works there. I'll pick there Christopher Demerit, running in the 3rd position. He's been aggressive. He's given, though, a lot of space to drivers on the past couple of runs that we've had. I think he stops giving that space and starts making more opportunistic moves, and he's had the good pace to run up front with the likes of Treno, DeGroot, all of these other guys. So I think any one of these top 3 have a likely shot to win this. Again, obviously don't count out the likes of Will Hite, Van de Sant Bennett, especially if any incident occurs up front, which we've seen last season's race. It was Stefan Wilson and can't remember who else it was who crashed out while fighting for the win with 2 laps to go. So here we go, final restart of the race. No matter what, if the caution flag waves once again, the race will end under caution. If it doesn't, then we'll get a checkered flag waving for one of these drivers, and we'll crown our 8th champion of the Elite Indy 500, presented by Rich Marr Florist. Nick DeGroot, Brandon Trano, Christopher Demerit, Chris Wilhite, Alexander Van de Sant, your top 5. Everybody in this field all packed up together, looking for an opportunity to make history, to win, either repeat and win another Indy 500, or to grab their very first 500 honors. It's all going to be determined here in just a couple of laps time and just a couple of minutes time here. 2 more corners before Nick DeGroot sees that green flag and brings his field back up to speed. How early does he decide to go? He decides the pace here.
Get your popcorn ready.
It's going to be a ton of fireworks here for sure. Ton of action out on the racetrack. Nick DeGroot looks like he starts getting going there, and he has gone early, just like you suggested, RC. That's a good move there, and he has put a solid gap there on Brandon Trano, at least down the front straightaway. Expect though Trano to probably suck back in and grab back up to the back of that 89 car before the back of the back straightaway here. But he's also got to worry about Christopher Demerit, who now is looking for a chance to win. 3 laps to go in this race. It's DeGroot, Trano, Demerit, but they've got runs here. Ooh, Pinheiro goes a little bit loose, and here comes Brandon Trano.
Looks like
and Demerit.
It's going to go with him, yeah.
Ooh, but Nick DeGroot hangs on the outside, so he does a great job there, staying in second position. That could give him the run now on Brandon Trano off of turn number 4. But no, he kind of loses it a little bit there off of turn number 4, and now it's Christopher Demerit. No, it's not Nick DeGroot stays in second position.
I think they may have made contact coming out of or it was really close.
It did look very close between them, but Nick DeGroot now well clear of Demerit, and here we go, the defensive weaving from Brandon Trano to break up the draft as much as possible. What can he do to protect against Nick DeGroot? Right now, he can do quite a bit because Nick DeGroot, no run able to form down that back straightaway, but DeGroot closer and closer here. We're about to get the white flag here. Here we go, 1 more lap to go in the Elite Indy 500, presented by the Whiskey Cast podcast. It's the last call, final lap. Nick DeGroot to the inside in turn number 1. He's going to take over the lead of the Indy 500 over Brandon Trano. They head now down to the back straightaway. Did he, though, make the pass too soon? Is Brandon Trano going to have the move down into turn number 3? Here they go. DeGroot protects the inside line. Trano's going to look to the outside. He's got the run potentially. Can he make that around the outside, though? DeGroot's not going to give him the space. Here they come. Through the short chute.
Nick's getting loose.
He's getting loose here, but side by side they come. Nick DeGroot versus Brandon Trano. They're going to run side by side across the line. It looks like it's going to be Brandon Trano winning the Indy 500 by inches over Nick DeGroot.
Ooh, what a finish.
What a finish there. Wow.
Trano wins another one. Good battle by Nick and him, though. What a finish there.
What a drive by Brandon Trano there to get the job done. Got the move around the outside, the move on Nick DeGroot. DeGroot, a great job defending, just misses out. It'll be heartbreak for Nick DeGroot. Absolute pleasure and glory there for Brandon Trano. What a drive and what a finish there to that Indy 500, the 8th running there. Our brand new winner there in the Elite Racing Leagues, at least. But like you've mentioned here, Marshall, Brandon Trano has just been exceptional in other Indy 500s as well. But man, tough loss there. Yeah, tough loss there for Nick DeGroot. But celebrations begin here for Trano, and yeah, certainly well-deserved. He was up in that battle all race long, fighting it out for the lead, fighting it out for the race win, and just placed his car perfectly at the end of this event. Got to be careful there. He's getting a little close to the bricks there. Don't want to do donuts there, but looks like he's well clear. And yeah, what a win here by that number 3 car.
Yeah, and great clean racing on that last lap, too. They both gave each other just enough room, to have racing space, and it made for a great finish.
It absolutely did. So, the results of that race, the 8th running of the Elite Indy 500. Brandon Trano, what a job well done by that driver. And let's take a look at the final results here. three hundredths of a second, 3.6 hundredths of a second separating the top two drivers. It just wasn't enough for Nick DeGroot, just didn't have the run off the corner. Chris Wilhite less than a second behind them as well in third. What a run by him up into the third position. It was looks like the damage that you mentioned, you noticed that contact there really hurt. I was going to say, where on earth? Demerit finished in 12th.
Coming to the white flag, he tapped the wall outside turn 2.
Yeah. So Christopher Demerit all the way down in 12th position. Henry Bennett grabs the 4th spot, so continues to build to his championship lead. Nicholas Sudek, how about a shout-out there? 6th position finish for him. 1.5 seconds off the race winner here. But, of course, we're gonna bring in our third and second place drivers first, but we're going to start with Chris Wilhite. Chris, man, third place finish, obviously not the win that you might have been hoping for, but what a drive. Up 19 positions from your starting spot. Got to still be proud of that run. Really, really impressive drive tonight.
Yeah, thanks, Rishav. Yeah, we're super excited. I mean, 22nd up to third. In a race, there really wasn't a whole lot of passing on track. It was so tough to pass. So for us to make up all those spots and just be there at the end and get on the podium, that's a great night.
RC or Marshall, you guys have any questions?
Yeah, how did it feel through race strategy? Did you guys feel like you had a good understanding of what was going on up front, or did you guys kind of have your own thing going on as far as strategy goes?
Yeah, we stuck with our own plan, and obviously it modified a little bit with the way the cautions fell. I ended up going kind of more of a short pit strategy instead of running it completely out. We pitted right when we got in the window, and that seemed to help us. We gained a spot here, and then another pit weekend, we gained 2 or 3 spots, then we gained another spot. So that kind of moved us up from 14th to the top 10, and then from there it was kind of that crazy racing and all those restarts with 20 to go.
And Chris, on those final 20 laps or so, you're sitting in 4th position. I know it's really, really tough being 4th. It's like the one spot back to where it's tough to get a draft, because by the time you get there, it's right at the end of the straightaway, not being in that top 3. How active were you on the weight jackers? I know you probably were going crazy on those things.
Yeah, it was tough tonight, RC, because usually you kind of crank that thing up when you're in traffic, but this set in the track, and maybe it was the wind, I'm not sure. It was just a little bit looser than it usually was, so you couldn't go too high. I was playing a little more conservative, just trying to keep the spot, not spin up. But yeah, fortunately we got a couple really good restarts there at the end, and got past Henry on one, got past Alex on one, and then Chris had a little bit of trouble, and we got past him on the last one.
Well, yeah, awesome run tonight, man. Just a great race put together by you as a whole. Want to give you a chance, though, especially to make some shout-outs here on the air.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So first and foremost, Chad Frankenfield. This is a first-class event that he does twice a year. So big shout out to him and the league. Give thanks to Rich Mar Florist and at Mega Driver 86, and then a quick shout out to my team, Highside Motorsports. Lawrence and Alan were kind of helping me on the radio there, and Bumper Thumper Traction Compound. That's it. Appreciate everything you guys do. Looking forward to watching it back tomorrow.
All right, congratulations again. Great run up to the third finishing position. Chris Wilhite will bring in the second place finisher here, and it's got to be unfortunate heartbreak there. 36 thousandths of a second there separating you, Nick DeGroot, from an Indy 500 winner, but still have to be proud of the race that you raced today. Led a number of laps there, looked extremely strong at the end, unfortunately just coming up a little bit short.
Oh yeah, I'm going over it in my head what I should have done differently. I think that moving to turn 1 on the white flag was still the right move, but I'm wondering if down the backstretch maybe I should have given Brandon the bottom and I take the top so I can try to have the momentum there through 3 and 4 and let him get all squirrely down on the apron. But it could have gone either way, because you saw it was still extremely close. I was hoping I could hold that bottom, but it was just a little too loose. I think once I wobbled in 3, that pretty much did me in. Any momentum I had was pretty much gone at that point. But yeah, it was an awesome race. It was pretty cool to be up there battling with guys like Brandon and Chris. And apologies to Chris too. I was trying to chase Brandon's draft down the front stretch right as he was going to make a move on me, and ended up giving him some front wing damage. So I hate that. He deserved to be on that podium. But yeah, crazy race. It started with that lap 1, too, with Stefan Wilson spinning right in front of me. I thought my race was over right then and there, so it was a hell of a ride.
Well, Nick, yeah, you were so close, man. It would have been so cool to see you win. But I guess what was your thought process after you saw the top three end up fuel saving? You had this big opportunity to pass all three of them going into one. I was curious to know what your reaction kind of was to that, because I imagine at that point you probably didn't need to fuel save anymore, did you?
I did actually.
Oh, shit.
Every time I've seen a situation like that where you get a train of cars trying to slow down to save fuel, usually it ends in a caution because everybody's all packed up. So I figured I'll take the lead. I'll grab the free positions that they're just handing me and hope there's a yellow. And yeah, it worked out. I should have been finishing back in about fifth there around where Henry was, because that's where I was running all day with him. But yeah, that opened the door. We got the lead. We got the yellow, and it was game on from there on to the finish. So yeah, it was a nice little opportunity. I like gambling like that, but if we didn't get a yellow, I was probably going to be in a little trouble, to be honest.
Yeah, well, you made the ending so much fun, man. It was a pleasure to watch.
Yeah, so close to that first one. I'm still trying to get my first one in Elite. That's, I think, my second place finish.
RC?
Yeah, Nick, I mean, I've been in that same situation 2 Indy 500s ago. I took the outside, and that was the one that had the most momentum to beat it at the line. And I know it's tough to be down low. Do you think you might have been just too aggressive with the weight jacker there? Or if you would have changed what you did with the weight jacker, would you have not got squirrely?
Yeah, I think I was going to get loose down there either way, but I probably should have backed down the weight jacker a couple more notches. I took it down one down the backstretch, but I should have knocked out a couple more notches from it, and it may have held a little bit better. But it's hard to do, when you're side by side for the win, going 200 whatever miles. Hard to think about that, but yeah, that probably could have helped me. In the end, I think the outside was the way to go, though. Worked out for him, and yeah, just wish I had that one back. But how many times do we think that?
Absolutely, man. But still a lot to be proud of here tonight. A great run still at the Indy 500. I want to give you the chance to make some shout-outs here on the air.
Yeah, thank you to Factory Back Motorsports, motorsport.com. Always great NASCAR, F1, IndyCar content there, as well as dozens of other forms of motorsport that we cover. And thank you to Covymore.com, Blaze Pods, DeGrew Automotive Detailing, you all, Cowboy Shit, and just everybody else that supports this team. It's really cool to get that close to the big one. So we'll be back in May to try again.
Awesome to hear that, man. Congratulations on P2, and we'll hope to talk to you some more times this season.
Yep, thank you, guys.
All right, Nick DeGroot, who just came so close, but just a little bit too far, because instead the race winner, just by a hair, Brandon Trano. What a drive there. Dominant performance, was part of that group of about 4 cars that were really just there all race long, leading the pack. And then to put that move around the outside in 3 and 4 to ultimately win the race. Just talk us through the event and talk us through your emotions here. Indy 500 winner here in the Elite Racing Leagues.
Yeah, first of all, thanks for putting this on. Really, really happy to be a part of this. It's really cool with Chad and all you guys do. So thanks for inviting me. The race was good. We controlled the pace pretty much all race long. The later stages, we ended up trying to save fuel. I think everybody was doing that. Once the last 4 or 5 caution came out, it kind of threw everything off. But it was a good race all in all. It was pretty calm until the end, and unfortunately, my teammate and Nick got together off of 4 when Nick tried to follow my snake down the straightaway. So I turned into a 2-car race instead of a 2v1 kind of thing. So I was trying to feed Nick a little bit of dirty air, and he worked it really well and got to my outside and dove down the inside into 1, which is not what I was expecting. But thankfully, I got a good enough tow down the backstretch. Swung to his outside and pretty much just sat on his side pod, and he got a little bit loose in both corners, which allowed me to just get the run off the corner, which was all I needed to pull out the victory. So,
Well, Brandon, good race by you, man. I guess the only thing I really need to ask you, because you probably have been in this interview multiple times, what number of Indy victories now is I5G at?
This would be 21, and this would be 7 for me.
Whew.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, it's a testament to what you guys are capable of. It's a shame Chris wasn't able to be up there with you at the end, man. But good job today, man. Hell of a win.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Yeah, it was a fun race with a teammate. I got to give a shout out to AJ Burton and Brendan Lichtenberg. They were our crew chiefs for the race and just really kept us calm. So yeah, shout out to those guys.
Absolutely. Congratulations again. You again etched your name into a little bit of elite history there. In the 8th running we've had, you joined the names like John Poole III, RC, of course, Henry Bennett, all race winners here in the Elite Indy 500. We hope to see you in future events as well. Absolutely put on a show there. And yeah, once again, congratulations, man. You are an Indy 500 champion. Go kiss those virtual bricks.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
All right, well, another season and another historic finish there in the Elite Indy 500 here on iRacing. I mean, what a drive by by Brendan Trano. What a drive by Nick DeGroot as well. Of course, we shouted out Nicholas Sudik for his move up the field. Same thing with Chris Wilhite, both having fantastic runs all the way up the field. Johnny Thomas also deserves a shout out there, grabbing a top 10 there, up 19 spots from his starting position. But yeah, I mean, talk us through, Marshall, give me your thoughts on the race. RC as well. I know you were only there for a little bit later in the event, but of course, got to witness what a great finish.
I think in a lot of cases, some things were unexpected, but some stuff was right with what you did expect as far as pace goes. I think the guys you expected to be up front were, and I think if you were able to give a driver of the day to a driver, I think you give it to Nick, just because of all the things he took advantage of, all the opportunities he had. He put himself in such a great position that even he said that he probably maybe wouldn't have ended up in prior. So it made it a fun race. I think it's cool to see a finish like that go right to the line. And yeah, can't wait to see this again next May. Hopefully I'll be a part of it.
Yeah, and I mean, just watching the last 20 or so laps, and I mean, I was watching a little bit on my way back from West Palm, or at least of what I could. Don't watch your TV and drive, but yeah, no, it was all too familiar. Same thing that I went through when I was doing the race the 2 seasons ago. When it gets to the end of the race, it becomes a dogfight. So the first, I'd say 150 laps, you're really just sitting there and clocking laps and just trying to stay on the lead lap, maybe play out a strategy because you never know what's going to happen at the end. But it's always comes down to the yellows, comes down to the big match at the end, and making sure you're putting yourself in the right track position. And I think Brandon did it perfectly on going to the outside. That's usually always a good move because if you can pinch him down enough and trust the guy next to you, you can get that good run to the finish. And I love watching a close finish.
Absolutely. Again, another fantastic race that we had here. It was all about playing out the right strategy, being there at the end, being one of those drivers, and we see a lot of similar names to the guys who were saving the right amount of fuel, but also running aggressively enough and running a good enough pace up at the top of the standings there. And again, another chapter written in the history books here for the Elite Racing Leagues and the Elite Indy 500. It's been an absolute pleasure to bring you guys the action. I've been Rishabh Khosla, joined by Marshall Stanley and RC Enerson here. Of course, we want to thank our great premier sponsors at the Elite Racing Network, Response Energy, C2 Freight Resources, and Blue Egg Marketing, as well as our race sponsor for tonight, Rich Marr Florist. And with that all being said, it's been an absolute pleasure once again to bring you guys this action tonight. Thank you all for sticking around and watching. That's been us. We'll be back in a couple weeks' time here with some more Mega Driver 86 IndyCar Series action. But for tonight, that's all. Have a good night, everybody.